Lord of Mystery. The Return of the Stars, chapters 661 to 680. In a tavern in a small city in the southwest of the Loan Kingdom, Leonard, who was unshaven and still drinking in broad daylight, suddenly felt that there was something in his body. Old man, are you back?" Leonard put down his wineglass, his whole body trembling with the tone. "Oh, you're really good at drinking in broad daylight." The mocking words shook Leonard's spirits. He pursed his lips, drained the beer in the glass, and said with a smile, "Without you guys here, I am alone and bored, so I can only drink some wine to pass the time." "Aren't you going to continue to advance to a higher level?" "As high as you can go, I can only go so far in my life." "Don't you often claim to be the protagonist of this era?" "That's just because I haven't met the real protagonist of the era yet. Now that I have met him, I am content with being ordinary." Leonard's voice was filled with relief. "So living a life of drunkenness and dreaming of death is the path you have chosen?" "I am preparing to travel around the world and become a real bard. Old man, are you interested in accompanying me on this journey?" "You just want to find a free guide, right, old man? You have seen through all my little thoughts." Leonard paid for the drink, stood up and left the tavern with a smile. As a bard, it is natural to have poems to sing, and poems praising the stars and the fool are all very good. Soon, Leonard was singing a poem praising the stars and departed. In the southern continent, Audrey and Sharon were carefully looking at the starlight incarnation in front of them. Audrey even stretched out her finger to poke the arm of Haster's incarnation, without any concrete feeling. "This is just an incarnation of starlight, made purely of light," Haster explained with a smile. During this period of time, he has been adapting to his promotion to the singer of sequence 1 star in the Hall of Stars. Continuous promotion is also a load for him, which needs to be digested slowly. In order to prevent Sharon and Audrey from worrying, he sent down a starlight incarnation to meet them first. "It is purely composed of light, isn't it just an illusory existence like an illusion?" Audrey asked curiously. "There is still an essential difference," Haster explained. "Illusions cannot interfere with the real world, but my incarnation can." Haster gathered a beam of starlight with one hand and smashed it at Azishara, who was eating dried fish. It was so frightened that it jumped onto the house and then let out an aggrieved meow. Audrey roughly understood the function of this incarnation and had no intention of continuing to explore it. "Are you really safe in the stars?" "Well, there's no danger at the moment." Sharon raised her head and glanced at the starry sky. "I always have a bad feeling in my heart." "You are overthinking, just relax." After Haster comforted Sharon and chatted with them for a while, his starlight incarnation left the southern continent and descended on the Yellow Church in Backland. Haster did not disturb the followers in yellow and only met with Lady Lisa. As soon as they met, Mrs. Lisa knelt on the ground, prostrate, as if she had been greatly frightened. "Are you surprised to see me back safe?" "No, you misunderstood. I am apologizing for having unintentionally peeked into your secret." "What secret?" "The prophesied black star." Mrs. Lisa's tone was trembling, and she didn't even dare to raise her head. "I can't continue to recall this secret, otherwise my soul will be completely destroyed." Asta was puzzled by this, and Mrs. Lisa explained, "This is a prohibition I set for myself, so as not to allow myself to recall the forbidden secret again." "Gee, is this the self-cultivation of a devout believer?" Asta sighed in his heart. He had roughly guessed what the forbidden secret Mrs. Lisa was talking about. She should have known the fact that she was not the king in yellow. The stars are not the same as the king in yellow, and there is even hostility between the two. Mrs. Lisa spied on some secrets, and she was frightened to seal that part of her memory to prevent herself from blaspheming the gods. The followers of the king in yellow have now gradually taken the shape of stars. To Haster, the great old one, believers are nothing more than toys for fun. Asta did not dwell on this issue anymore and began to ask Mrs. Lisa about the current situation of the Yellow Clothes Church during this period. After confirming that there was no trouble, he left the Yellow Clothes Church. He felt it for a while, then went to the place where Will's parents originally lived, and really found Will here. "I tried my best to control my aura, but you still caught me. How perverted." Will, a 16 or 17-year-old boy, curled his lips. "This is the pull of fate." My shape has long been imprinted on your destiny. Can you please stop speaking so ambiguously? Why are you still here? I always want to spend this life with my parents in this life. Will glanced at his unconscious parents, who were busy in the kitchen preparing tonight's dinner. Is this what fate requires? No, this is my need. Will shook his head. I want to end this life on my own. Hasta did not mention this issue again and asked Will what happened during this time. The number of outer gods from the starry sky was much greater than before. They acted unscrupulously and have caused many troubles. Adam and the true creator are connected to the starry sky. You must be careful. Those outer gods did things without any moral bottom line in the past. Hasta talked a lot with Will before leaving Backland. He went to Intis and met Klein. Hasta couldn't help but smile when he heard that Klein's current name was Antinous, and finally couldn't help laughing out loud. He had heard of the name Antinous. This man was a famous male favorite in history. He was favored by an emperor named Hadrian. After Antinous died, Emperor Hadrian named him a god, the savior of the world and the god of peace. He also built a city and countless statues for him. Klein might not know the origin of this name, but Russell, who gave him this name, definitely knew. Klein smiled bitterly and said, I've always felt that this name is problematic. Actually, this name is quite suitable for you and Russell. Klein could hear Hasta's suppressed laughter, and sighed, Russell, we should call him the Great Emperor of Zheng in the future. This title suits him very well. Hasta chatted with Klein briefly, and then handed him a bookmark with the secrets of each sequence of the diviner's path. This is not a real diviner's tarot card, but the content he had engraved from Anbanu. Klein took the bookmark and read it fascinated. This is the gift he needs most at the moment. With this bookmark, the entire diviner's path is no longer a secret to him. He only needs to focus on finding extraordinary materials and digesting potions, which saves him a lot of time. Mr. Hasta, this gift is too precious. Before I ascended to the starry sky, you once gave me a blessing. Now, this is my return gift to you. Klein finally did not refuse. This is indeed the gift he needs most at the moment. Is Mr. Hasta going on another long journey? Pay attention to my gaze, which is coming from the starry sky. Don't let them notice you. Hasta briefly talked to Klein for a few more words before leaving Intis. His last stop was the Rorstad Islands, Bernadette's star sea kingdom. Sensing Hasta's arrival, Bernadette ended the meeting early. Recently, her old father asked her to sponsor a lot of wealth in order to restore the glory of Intis, and for this reason, the Star Sea Kingdom and the Republic of Intis signed a number of contracts. Are you used to not having the lamp god chattering beside you? Hasta stood on the balcony protruding from the second floor of the castle. The starry sky without the shining stars is a scenery that I can't get used to. Bernadette smiled and said. Now you are more and more like a qualified believer in the stars. This is your father's evaluation of you. Stars, do you want to hear my father's evaluation of you? No, Hasta directly rejected the proposal. He knew that Russell would never say anything good. Bernadette smiled and didn't mention the topic again. The stars are ascending to the starry sky, and the whole starry sky is boiling. You seem to yearn for the starry sky? Because of my father. I have been afraid of and yearning for the starry sky since I was a child. At least now, the starry sky is not suitable for you. Now what I yearn for is no longer the starry sky. Bernadette said something meaningful. Hasta talked a lot with Bernadette, and when he left, he told Bernadette to be careful, and then returned to the starry sky. In the starry sky, more than 3 months have passed since the arrival of the stars made waves, and the boiling starry sky has become silent again. The stars did not show any dazzling performance. Instead, the side of the fallen mother goddess became more and more powerful. It seemed that they were holding a large-scale sacrificial ceremony to penetrate more of the outer god's old influence into the initial barrier. Hasta is still sitting in the Hall of Stars, letting the Jinn and the Mother Tree of Desire inquire about the relevant information. He is ready to begin exercising the authority of the stars. The stars have returned to their positions. Now that he has ascended to the starry sky, it is time to start formulating a rule for this starry sky to perfect the authority of the stars. He wants to send all the old clones of the outer god hidden within the initial barrier back to the stars. The starry sky is the suitable place for them. As for the initial barrier, it is the forbidden land belonging to the outer gods in the past and is not allowed to be crossed. But Hastur did not inform the Mother Tree of Desire and other outer gods about such a plan. He just started this action in the name of targeting the fallen Mother Goddess. The Mother Tree of Desire also doesn't want too many outer gods to be like them in the past, who could enter the initial barrier in advance and work very hard in doing things. It is now known that the 3 ancient clones of the outer gods have sneaked into the original barrier. The Jinn came to the Hall of Stars in private to communicate with Hastur about the news he had heard during this period. The Weaver of Destiny, the Everlasting Whispers, and the Goddess of Desolation, they all entered the initial barrier through the passage opened by the fallen Mother Goddess some time ago. The Black Spider of Destiny Weaver that likes to hide in the dark is the most difficult to deal with. After sending the Jinn away, Hastur looked at the starry sky in front of him. The starry sky in the Hall of Stars is still mostly dark, with not many stars actually lighting up. Originally, Hastur could only wait for them to light up on their own, but now, he can take the initiative to light up and awaken these still dim stars. This is part of the authority of the Star Singer sequence. The Destiny Weaver. Hastur's voice was magnificent, and his voice spread like a faint song to the starry sky in front of him. Destiny Weaver, an originally dim and dead star, successfully lit up at his call. When the stars lit up, Hastur could already glimpse the existence of the Destiny Weaver through the stars. Whether it is the original body or the clone that sneaked into the initial barrier, they are all under the gaze of the stars. After being promoted to Sequence 1, the star path began to gradually reveal its various powers to control the starry sky. Sequence 2. The starry attendant's control of the star game. Sequence 1. The star singers lighting up the stars. The starry sky should be under the gaze of the stars. No matter which outer god it is, as long as it is a star in the starry sky, it should be under the control of the stars. Mother of Desolation. Hastur lit another star that the outer god had represented in the past. As for the unquenchable Babel, the star it represents has already been lit. Within the initial barrier, the Destiny Weaver, hidden in the shadow of destiny, suddenly felt a line of sight from the starry sky, watching his every move. It was as if all his actions were under the gaze of that line of sight. Stars. The Destiny Weaver gently spits out the names of the stars from its round belly intertwined with black and white lines. He began to weave threads of destiny as thin as silk, twisting and weaving them into a white cocoon, hiding himself inside, avoiding the gaze of the stars. But he still felt that the gazes from the stars were locked on the cocoon of destiny that he had woven. The gaze from the stars cannot be avoided and can only be isolated in this way, but he cannot guarantee that the stars really cannot see through his cocoon of destiny. On the other side, deep in the desolate land in the northern part of the Fuzak Empire, a light gray giant egg-shaped desolate goddess is constantly using her authority to absorb the life force of the surrounding earth, turning the land of life into a dead and desolate land. In this way, he is constantly strengthening his field, and at the same time, he is also constantly increasing his own strength, allowing his avatar to break through the limits and reach the Sequence 0 level, or even higher. But for no reason, he felt a palpitation in his heart, as a dangerous gaze was projected from the starry sky. Stars. Only the stars have the authority to see through themselves, and they have discovered their existence. Well, he's coming. The goddess of desolation felt the huge danger, and the light gray giant egg shook wildly, cracking a hole, allowing herself to hatch out of the giant egg in advance. The next second after he completed this act, a huge star pressed down from the sky. The entire land could not withstand the huge force and began to collapse, spreading all the way to the depths of the earth, where he was hiding. The giant egg could not withstand the huge force and was crushed in an instant. As for the goddess of desolation, its appearance was like a huge shell, with several multi-section cylindrical pseudopods extending from the half-opened shell. A mouthless face with sunken eye sockets peered out from within. He quickly opened up the hard ground and escaped from here. When he first appeared in another underground place, the power in his body was suddenly out of control. His body emerged from the depths of the ground and appeared in mid-air, just below the huge star. He didn't even have time to call out the honorable name of the stars before he was completely crushed by the meteor. Then a burst of starlight flickered, and the clone of the goddess of desolation was completely transmitted back to the starry sky. The starry sky, the dead starry sky where the desolation goddess lived, erupted with an extremely angry scream. Soon, many of the outer gods nearby witnessed that the goddess of desolation had left the starry sky where she lived and was furiously traveling through the starry sky, looking for traces of possible existence of the stars. Hasta also witnessed this scene on the Hall of Stars. He didn't care about it. The reason why he chose the goddess of desolation as his target was because her authority was not suitable for escape. If it was a being like the Fate Weaver who had a particularly strong sense of his own destiny, it would be a difficult task for Hasta to completely send her clone back to the starry sky. The goddess of desolation was obviously an outer god who was not good at this ability. When they light up the stars they symbolize, they will spontaneously establish a certain connection with the Hall of Stars. This weak connection can probably perform a chess star technique. Hasta was summarizing the gains of this move and preparing to send the Fate Weaver clone back to the starry sky next time. At the moment when the goddess of desolation was sent back to the starry sky according to his own arrangement, Hasta could clearly feel the strengthening of the authority of the stars. If one day he could make all the stars move according to his will, then he would be the one who truly dominated the starry sky. Take your time, this is destined to be a long process. Hasta glanced at the star where the goddess of desolation was. He was venting his anger about his clone being sent back to the starry sky. If the lamp god was there, he would definitely mock him for being incompetent and furious. As soon as this thought came to Hasta's mind, he saw the lamp god suddenly appear in the starry sky where the goddess of desolation was, and sneered at him in a gloating manner. Then, the goddess of desolation poured all her anger on the lamp god, chasing him across several starry skies, and only stopped because she lost the trace of the lamp god, and then gradually regained her composure. Hasta glanced at him for a few times, snorted softly, and extended a chain of stars across the Hall of Stars, whipped him hard, hooked away one of his clones, came to the Hall of Stars, and opened the box of the old days at the same time. Before he had time to react, he sent his clone into the box of the old days. The originally calmed goddess of desolation fell into a rampage again, and began to vent her anger at the stars in front of her. The lamp god came back again, making waves of triumphant taunts, and then, he was chased by the goddess of desolation again. It's really cheap. The lamp god has been jumping around for so long and has not been killed. The outer gods of the entire starry sky should bear an unshakable responsibility for this matter. Especially the fallen mother goddess, as the only pillar in the starry sky. How could she allow the lamp god to keep taunting her face like this? Hasta sighed sincerely, and was too lazy to observe the movements of the goddess of desolation. He began to aim at the Weaver of Destiny. As he watched, the Fate Weaver seemed to be manipulating and weaving the fate of people and things related to him. This process was very slow, probably because he didn't want Will to notice it. This behavior reminded Hasta of a strange fate extraordinary he had met in Backland, a spider that was good at spinning cocoons. The body of the Fate Weaver seemed to be in the form of a spider. Spider, spider web, web of fate. Hasta gradually understood the power of the Fate Weaver, thinking about how to catch him and then send him back to the starry sky. Great goddess of fate, you have mercy, you have gifts, you bring the fate of all things in the world, you weave a dense web of fate. In the basement of a luxurious villa near the West Suburb Park in the capital of Lemberg, a naked mature woman was kneeling in the damp and dark basement with webs on the four corners, praying devoutly to a statue placed on the table. It was a statue that was all black, with a spider shape in the lower half and a seductive woman on the head. Although it was difficult to see his specific facial features, he seemed to have the body characteristics of an elf. In front of the statue, fragrant oil and incense were burning, and gems of various colors were placed. In front of the female priest, there was a pot of burning fire. The firelight reflected the figure of the mature woman on the wall behind her. On the spider webs with webs on the four corners, black spiders the size of little fingers crawled and attached to the silhouette projected by the mature woman. As more and more black spiders crawled on the silhouette of the mature woman, there seemed to be an uncontrollable itching feeling, causing the praying mature woman to moan with a few suppressed, painful and joyful moans. The straight back that was originally kneeling on the ground began to bend down, and the panting sound was much louder than before. Until a black shadow that looked almost like the statue appeared in the silhouette of the mature woman projected on the wall. All the moans in the basement finally stopped. The mature woman hurriedly put away her previous embarrassing appearance and knelt straight in front of the statue again to listen to the oracle from the gods. The goddess who controls fate. Only devout believers can perceive her existence and listen to her teachings, which is a gift that can change their own destiny. When the mature woman finished listening to the oracle from the goddess of fate, she left the basement and returned to a luxuriously decorated room with luxury everywhere. She faced the floor-length mirror and put on the clothes she had just taken off one by one. After getting dressed, she wiped off some makeup to cover up the blush on her face just now. After all this was done, she called the maid who was guarding outside the room. It didn't take long for her to wait for the turning point of her fate that she needed. Queen, as soon as the king returned to the palace after hunting, he got angry because he couldn't see you, so he asked us to take you back to the palace immediately. The mature woman just nodded calmly and got on the carriage to the palace. In the carriage, a mocking sneer appeared at the corner of her mouth. If it were before, she would definitely be happy that the king valued her so much today, but now she just felt disgusted, and the other party was just a dog she could easily call. Originally, she had been neglected by the king, and was even sent to this villa to live in seclusion. Originally, her fate in the second half of her life was foreseeable. Fortunately, the goddess of fate did not give up on her. She just made a simple wish, and the king of Lemberg, who neglected her and favored other women, chased her like a pug. Fate is so magical and so changeable. The same thing is happening silently in other places. All the people who prayed to the goddess of fate were women without exception. She only preferred women because she was a woman. This was the consensus of the believers of the goddess of fate. Soon, believers of the goddess of fate rose up secretly all over Lemberg, like a web of fate slowly spreading. The belief in the goddess of fate gradually spread from the small country of Lemberg to the surrounding countries. In the Republic of Intis, Seeger, and the Kingdom of Loen, people gradually began to secretly believe in this goddess of fate. Since the belief in the Mother Earth began to decline, her believers who had no one to rely on also began to believe in the goddess who controlled fate. Although this goddess of fate was not a harmless true god on the surface, as long as she could change her own destiny, there were still many believers who continued to throw themselves into her arms. As soon as the Kingdom of Loen had this clue and sign, the goddess of night immediately sent down an oracle, asking the Church of the Goddess of Night to start a strict investigation of pagans who believed in the Goddess of Fate. The followers of the Church of the Goddess of Night called the suddenly rising Goddess of Fate the fallen Spider Queen who blasphemed fate, and her followers were called blasphemers. In the capital of the Republic of Intis, Klein often felt a cold gaze hiding in the dark and spying on him. He went to Saphira Castle several times for divination, but could not get the results he wanted. There was only one thing, that he had a particularly strong peach blossom luck during this period, and he often met young and beautiful noble ladies, simple-minded working girls, passionate and mature ladies from the nobility, and even female priests who flirted with him. At first, Klein simply thought that this was because of the open customs of the Republic of Intis, and that his identity as Roger Gustav's sworn brother was destined to attract such pursuit from the opposite sex. But later, he gradually felt that something was wrong. All the women who approached him, no matter how they met or what kind of coincidence, seemed to come with some purpose. Having personally experienced the incident between Ints Zangwill and 008, he has always been particularly careful about the word coincidence. Now, he also had a feeling that his fate was secretly arranged by someone. The opponent was more difficult to deal with than Ints Zangwill and 008 combined, and he almost couldn't handle it several times. This is definitely unusual. Klein tried to get in touch with Will, and that night, he saw Will in his dream. In the past, there was an outer god who controlled destiny. Now his clone is lurking in the dark. Through the ability to weave destiny, he helps his believers change their destiny, thus strengthening his power of faith. This momentum is developing very quickly. Now the Goddess of the Night has responded and ordered the believers of the Church of the Goddess of the Night to strictly investigate those who believe in destiny. You are also Fate's beloved darling, so you have been targeted by him. Perhaps, he already knows your unknown identity. Klein was silent for a while. He finally found the reason for what happened to him during this period. Alas, he thought it was his current appearance that was attractive. What a shock. In the old days, the outer gods who controlled fate were on the same track as you, weren't they? Maybe he came for me, Will replied, and then told Klein not to worry too much. This is within the initial barrier. Although the opponent is powerful in the starry sky, here, his strength is also extremely limited. If he hadn't been worried that the other party had already weaved layers of nets waiting for him, he would have long wanted to uncover the old days of this outer god hiding in the shadows. Is there any way to deal with him? It's difficult. Will shook his head and said, he has gone very far on the road of destiny. Any future that is malicious to him will be foreseen by him in advance, making it difficult to take effect. Origin Castle does have the ability to hide, but it's still difficult to hide it from him. You don't seem to be in any hurry. I'm waiting for the stars to move. Stars? Well, it seems that he is preparing to send these outer gods who have sneaked into the original barrier back to the stars. Klein's eyes lit up. This is really a great strategy. Once completed, it will be a good thing for everyone. Don't worry, he is staying in the starry sky now, very safe, at least safer than you. Aemon has noticed you before, and he will be an obstacle to your future extraordinary path. Will seriously warned that he had already spied on part of Klein's fate. As for what happened after becoming the Lord of Mysteries, he was not able to pry into it for the time being. As for who will be the final winner between Klein and the Lord of Mysteries, he also cannot pry into the related fate. I'm ready to be promoted to Sequence 3. May fate bless you. After speaking, Will left the dreamland. Klein got up from the bed without any thought of resting. He knew that the secret flow of fate made it difficult for him to remain stagnant. Some time ago, Russell used the entire nation of the Republic of Intis to collect the extraordinary materials he needed to be promoted to a Sequence 3 Ancient Scholar. He only needs to mix it into a potion and he can try to get promoted. Because he has already fulfilled the required promotion ceremony in advance. The promotion ceremony is completely escaping from reality for at least 300 years, swallowing the magic potion when oneself has become history and does not belong to the current era. The time he has been hanging on the Origin Castle has definitely exceeded 300 years. He himself is already history, and his era has also passed. Thinking about it, this is the real reason why the Lord of Mysteries took so much trouble to hang a large group of people on the Origin Castle. He is taking the initiative to pave the way to the fortune-telling for those who come after him, so that the heirs of Origin Castle can quickly advance and grow. This has always made him deeply afraid. Half a month later, Russell returned from regaining a territory. Under his care, Klein was successfully promoted to Sequence 3 Ancient Scholar. As soon as he was successfully promoted, he noticed that the Ancient Scholar's potion in his body was being rapidly digested. The ancient history and secrets he now masters are enough to digest the Ancient Scholar's potion. He was preparing to rest for a few days, then collect the extraordinary materials needed for the Sequence 2 Miracle Master, and then continue his promotion. According to the content of the bookmark given by Hastur, the main material required to advance to Sequence 2 Miracle Master is a Miracle Master characteristic. Auxiliary materials: 300 milliliters of Miracle Master's blood, 1 time worm, and 1 star worm. When Klein told Russell the materials he needed, Russell mysteriously took out a copy of Miracle Master's blood and gave it to Klein. In order to be on guard against the old Yinbi Zaratul, I went to learn about the Diviner's Path, and by the way, I kept a copy of the Miracle Master's blood for research. I originally had a collection of star insects, but they were all robbed after my death. My precious daughter may still have a collection there. Insect of Time, this thing is very useful. I only got a little bit at the beginning and have used it all up. As for the extraordinary characteristics of the Miracle Master, you need to figure it out yourself. I have never obtained this thing. When Russell said this, he said in an indignant tone, "You guys are the best at saving lives, it's hard to fall. The more I think about it, the more angry I become." Klein just smiled and said, I got a few of Amon's worms of time, and I just have one left. Now I only need the extraordinary characteristics of the Miracle Master. Russell looked up at the starry sky. There is a copy of the Miracle Master's extraordinary characteristics in the Wishing Lantern. The lantern will follow the stars to the starry sky. It is estimated that the Miracle Master's extraordinary characteristics will most likely be in the hands of the stars. This is the fastest way to obtain the extraordinary characteristics of a Miracle Master. Mr. Hasta has helped me a lot. Just because he has helped you so much, he will continue to help you. Klein couldn't think of any words to refute Russell's remarks. Don't feel embarrassed. The situation is getting more and more complicated now. You'd better hurry up and get promoted. Russell chatted with Klein for a while, and then left the palace, saying that he was preparing to clear out the hidden followers of the Goddess of Destiny in the capital Trier. With Russell cooperating with the Church of Steam's raids, Klein could clearly feel that the love fortune around him was dispersing, and the prying eyes on him had become much weaker. The Fuzak Empire, a country that existed in name only, has now become a source of chaos. This is the place where the stars and outer gods liked to come in the past. Today, a burst of singing came from the starry sky and went straight through the depths of the earth. Then the earth made a violent commotion, and there also seemed to be a burst of singing or soft murmurs. The two sounds collided and melted softly in the air, and then a stream of light belonging to the stars penetrated the earth. When the starlight penetrated the ground and was about to detect the whereabouts of the endless murmur, all the starlight dispersed, and the singing from the starry skies suddenly stopped at the same time. In the starry sky, inside the Palace of Stars, Hasta looked at the starry sky outside. The endless murmuring and the Goddess of Desolation had traced the starry sky where the Palace of Stars was, and were watching with eagerness, trying to imprison the Palace of Stars. Hasta sighed and manipulated the Palace of Stars to penetrate everything and stay away from the starry sky. During this period of time, he has been trying to first send the clone of Everlasting Rumbling back to the starry sky, and then target the Destiny Weaver with all his strength. But with the lessons learned by the Goddess of Desolation from the last time, Everlasting Rumbling and Destiny Weaver noticed his intentions. Whenever he made a move across the Palace of Stars, Everlasting Rumbling and the others could always rush to the stars quickly. The starry sky where the palace is. Hasta could only control the Palace of Stars to stay away. They have played this hide-and-seek game several times. This is also the reason why Hasta has been unable to send the clone of Everlasting Rumbling back to the starry sky. Although the Mother Tree of Desire and the Superstar Master want to help, over the fallen Mother Goddess, the old numbers of the outer gods have an absolute advantage. If there is a real commotion, the side of the fallen Mother Goddess will definitely have the upper hand. In order to solve this problem, Hasta has also been thinking about how to achieve his desired goal without disturbing the old days of the outer gods in the starry sky. There are two solutions he thought of. One is to let the Palace of Stars risk the awakening of the consciousness of the original creator to cross the initial barrier and return to the real world. The second method is to let Will and the others deal with the old clones of the outer god, while he can send down the Starlight Incarnation as a guide, which is very feasible. Hasta finally chose the second method. Backlund, Will, who was enjoying the breakfast carefully prepared by his parents, noticed the arrival of the incarnations of the stars, quickly took a few mouthfuls of food, then returned to his room and closed the door. Are you ready to take action against the Destiny Weaver? Will's tone was a little excited. He had been waiting for a long time. You need to complete this matter yourself. Hasta briefly talked about his situation in the starry sky. Will thought about it for less than 2 seconds before nodding in agreement. As long as there is no interference from the stars, I can strangle him to death with just one of his clones. Will was still very confident about this. According to his observation, the strength of the Fate Weaver's clone was roughly equivalent to that of an Angel King, while he was Sequence 0 holding the Light Key essence. The difference in strength was huge. You need to accommodate more of the Light Key first, otherwise accidents are inevitable, Hasta said. Fate Weaver might be able to snatch control of the Light Key from Will. After all, Will has not completely accommodated the Light Key yet. Alas, this is what I am worried about. The god of steam and machinery, the god of knowledge and wisdom, and the goddess of night, should also help. In the next little while, Hasta and Will developed a feasible strategy, which was roughly to unite the true gods at the initial barrier crack to target the Fate Weaver and the unextinguished Whisper. When Hasta left, Will quickly went to the kingdoms of several true gods at the initial barrier crack, and everything went smoothly. In the matter of targeting the outer gods of the Old Ones, they had the same goal. Especially the goddess of night, the Fate Weaver, as the goddess of fate, has rapidly expanded the scope of faith, and the flame of faith has been difficult to extinguish. Among the believers of the goddess of night, women account for a large proportion, and there have been many cases where believers who originally believed in the goddess of night have switched to the belief of the goddess of fate. Under the temptation of changing fate, believers who believe in the goddess of night, the god of steam and machinery, and the god of knowledge and wisdom have not received any substantial help. It is more of a spiritual comfort and a place for the soul. This is an illusory and difficult to implement belief, which is difficult to compare with the temptation of the goddess of fate to change the original fate. The anchor of their faith has begun to waver. Will only reached a united front with them, and did not discuss any specific strategic steps. He only discussed this with the stars. Only in this way can the Fate Weaver's keen perception of fate be shielded, and he can be successfully calculated and sent back to the starry sky. My fate is obscured. Are the stars preparing to attack me? Hidden in a dark cave underground, it was covered with white spider webs, and spiders of varying sizes were patrolling back and forth. In the depths of the spider web cave, there was a giant black spider that looked like a human, or an elf, a dark elf. The Weaver of Fate, the Queen of Spiders, and the Queen of the Deep Pit Magic Web were all his honorific names. After descending into the real world, he also gave himself a human name, Rose. He liked this name very much, and he also liked to walk in the human world with this identity. Stars, can you really keep watching me? The Weaver of Fate murmured hoarsely, and his upper body struggled to break away from the spider's flesh. Dark green, smelly mucus kept oozing out, dripping onto the spider web suspended below, making a crackling sound. When the elven body of the Fate Weaver completely separated from the spider's flesh, it looked up at the starry sky, then eliminated its elven body features and turned into an elegant and mature woman in a black gauze dress. At this moment, it seemed as if he had completely cut off his past destiny. The fate of the Fate Weaver suddenly disappeared. Will, who stayed at home honestly in Backland, noticed the slight fluctuation of fate at the first time. He was sure that at that moment, the Fate Weaver must have taken some measures to completely cover up his own fate. Even if he had the source of the Key of Light, he could not find the fate of the Fate Weaver again in a short time. He should know that we are preparing to deal with her, so he made changes in advance. The existence of the fate path is too sensitive to fate. Alas, it's really shameless. Oh, I am also a fate path, then it's okay. Will thought carefully for a while and felt that the Fate Weaver was hiding and might come to Backland to find him. Perhaps he could use himself as bait to lure him into the trap. As soon as this idea came into being, Will was forcibly suppressed to prevent the Fate Weaver from noticing some changes in fate. What a trouble. Will sighed, and the stars in the room flashed, and the incarnation of the stars descended in front of him. Let's go. I'll take you to deal with the remains of him. His fate has changed. Can you still see him? Not now, but I'll be able to find him accurately after I spend more time with him. Hasta also noticed the abnormality of the Fate Weaver in the Hall of Stars. Now, he can only see the spider body of the Fate Weaver. As for where the humanoid part disappeared to, he couldn't immediately spy on it. This proves that the Fate Weaver is using the authority that belongs exclusively to the path of fate to cover up the gaze from the starry sky. That's good. Let's go. Don't waste any more time. Okay. Will looked a little strange, but he still followed the clone of the stars to leave Backland. Not long after they left Backland, the lady in the black gauze skirt who came out from deep underground appeared in Will's house. When Will's parents saw him, they smiled and said, "Will, why don't you continue to rest in the room? Didn't you just say that you feel a little uncomfortable?" "Well, I do feel a little uncomfortable, but I feel much better now." The Fate Weaver just glanced at Will's parents and instantly replaced their fate. Now, he is Will and Will's parents. Family love. Boring life. No illness or disaster, live to the age of 90, is this the fate you arranged for your parents? You can obviously give them a better fate, it's hard to understand. The Fate Weaver murmured a few words, and completely turned into Will's parents, and then began to weave the web of fate, waiting for Will to fall into the net. But in just a few minutes, Will turned back, looking at his mother who was preparing meals in the kitchen and his father who was sitting on the sofa reading the newspaper, and sneered, "Is this the method of the Fate Weaver?" When Will revealed the identity of the Fate Weaver, everything around him changed dramatically in an instant. The originally good 3-story building turned into a cave full of spider webs, and countless spider threads were entangled back and forth, trying to tie Will up. A wheel of fate floated out from behind Will, and even though the spider web attacked him, it could not invade him at all. The power of fate had no effect on him. But suddenly, Will felt a palpitation coming, and the fate from the past and the future started to bite back at him at the same time. His body trembled and stood there unable to move. A torrent of fate surged in front of him, smashing him into the fate web that had been woven around him, unable to extricate himself and difficult to leave. It seems that you are not very familiar with the authority and power of the fate path. The voice of the Fate Weaver came from the white spider web. Compared to you, my ability to use fate is still very simple. Will was not panicked at all, and smiled, but in the face of absolute power, the so-called skills are not worth mentioning at all. Will's body was flashing with white transparent light, and he easily broke free from the bondage of the Fate Weaver and regained his freedom. Ha ha. The Fate Weaver just sneered, and the white spider silk around him entangled, and the fate web opened again. Will evaded flexibly, but was still bound by the fate web. You bind my fate. I am not only you, but also your father and your mother. Your fate is already under my control. Will blinked and said, but this is within the initial barrier. Is the strength of your clone enough to support you to bind a true fate path sequence 0? After speaking, Will easily broke through the fate bondage again, and at the same time took back the fate of himself and his parents, so that the Fate Weaver could no longer bind his fate through this point. Your understanding of fate is too superficial. The Fate Weaver disappeared from the darkness, and then the fate around him fluctuated violently. The next second, Will felt that the key of light that he had not yet fully contained in his body was about to leave him and fly into the arms of the Fate Weaver. Will looked serious, first suppressed the abnormality of the key of light, and then also disappeared into the darkness, crossed the torrent of fate, and corrected his fate of getting the key of light. The Fate Weaver wanted to temporarily replace his own fate, so that the key of light would mistakenly think that he was himself, so that he would leave his body and fly to the Fate Weaver. Are you learning from me? Yes, it's rare to meet a teacher like you who is willing to teach enthusiastically. Will nodded and agreed with the question of the Fate Weaver. He was indeed learning from the Fate Weaver how to use the power of fate. The Fate Weaver performed perfectly in all aspects. Every time he used a power, it was equivalent to teaching him a skill. Hey, you can continue to learn. The Fate Weaver didn't seem to care at all, and showed Will how to change the fate of the past and the future, how to use fate, and how to avoid the harm that was about to fall on him. Will studied very seriously, and the Fate Weaver also taught very seriously. After a while, Will broke free from the shackles of fate again and chuckled, I have learned almost everything. I know why you are willing to teach me enthusiastically. You want me to get closer to your fate so that you can better replace the fate that originally belonged to me, right? You are right. The Fate Weaver's eyes swept Will through the dense web of fate, and then quickly left here. With the strength of his clone, he is no match for Will at all. All he wants to do is to deepen the connection between his fate and Will's fate. Thus, he replaced Will's fate of successfully containing the key of light in the future. This was not something that this clone could accomplish. He needed to return to the starry sky so that he could replace Will's fate in advance through his original body before Will had fully grown up. Rumble. The Fate Weaver who had escaped into the depths of fate was suddenly disturbed by a violent disturbance, which disturbed his fate. He could only leave the hidden state and quickly change his position. Wearing a black gauze skirt, he naturally blended into a small town. Without any special arrangement, he successfully became an ordinary noble lady in the town. Anyone who saw him did not feel abrupt. They greeted him enthusiastically and completely regarded him as a town resident who lived here all year round. Unfortunately, this state only lasted for a short while, and Will came here and successfully found the Fate Weaver. The Fate Weaver continued to flee, but no matter where he fled to, or what kind of shielding method he applied to his fate, he was still easily found by Will. Stars. The Fate Weaver knew the reason for this situation in his heart. It must be that the stars had seen through his fate during this period of time, once again noticed him, and then continued to provide guidance to Will. Finally, the Fate Weaver fled twice, but was completely blocked by Will, making him unable to leave again. Returning to the starry sky is also the destiny I set. The Fate Weaver did not escape again, allowing Will to crush the fate of his clone. A ray of light from the stars flashed, and this part of the Fate Weaver was sent back to the starry sky. At the same time, the stars shone, and the light sprinkled on Will, helping Will purify the fate entanglement between him and the Fate Weaver. Before Will could say thank you, the light of the stars dissipated. Will understood that the Fate Weaver and other outer gods were chasing the stars in the starry sky again. The starry sky is really turbulent. I am afraid that only excellent helmsmen like the stars can cruise freely in the sea of stars. Will looked at the starry sky, returned the fate of his parents, and let everything return to normal. At this time, the change reappeared, and Will was clamped by his parents, and his fate was bound. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. The sudden change made Will stay where he was. He was thinking about the reasons that caused everything in front of him, and thinking about what he did not do well enough just now. His promotion to Sequence 0 was too short, and he had to accommodate the Key of Light. Indeed, his ability to use the Path of Destiny was far inferior to that of the Destiny Weaver. But his destiny is always firmly in his own hands. The Wheel of Fortune appeared behind him, and with a slight turn, his destiny began to change, and his whole person was freed from his shackles. It also released the fate of his parents. After doing all this, he heard a voice coming from deep inside his heart. Destiny is the most bizarre ability. Do you think I can't see my future destiny, so why do I still dare to come to Backland? Your understanding of destiny is too shallow. The honorable name of Destiny Weaver is taken too lightly. It is the voice of the Destiny Weaver. His fate seemed to be becoming more entangled with his own. The purification from the stars just now did not completely solve the influence of the Destiny Weaver on him. I'm curious how you do this. Will still showed his inquisitive spirit. What is your destiny? A future that has not yet come. Or a possible future. Destiny. Will murmured, having a deeper understanding in his heart. You are now affecting me through the initial barrier, right? Your clone was a bait from the beginning, and I've already taken the bait. You should be very proud of your calculation now, right? Will spoke softly and slowly, but you all seem to have forgotten that the Key of Light has been in my hand recently. No matter how stupid I am, I have learned a little bit about destiny. Destiny restarts. The Key of Light embedded in Will's palm glowed slightly, and the Wheel of Fortune behind him quickly turned, round and round, smoothing out the fateful waves caused by the Fate Weaver little by little. When fate restarts, the voice of the Destiny Weaver disappears from Will. It's really not easy. Will sighed and glanced at the starry sky. In terms of authority and ability, you are indeed very powerful, but in terms of people's calculations, you are still far behind. In order to let the Destiny Weaver come out of the darkness, the stars negotiated with him several times. On the one hand, they shielded the Destiny Weaver from peeking into the future destiny, and on the other hand, they made the Destiny Weaver believe that he had a chance to win. Therefore, the Destiny Weavers came to Backland, and came to their carefully prepared snare. This is not a trap of fate, but a psychological game of multi-layered calculations. Let everything be restored to its original state. Will looked at his parents with dull eyes and let their fate return again. Will, why don't you continue to rest in the room? Didn't you just say you weren't feeling well? Will's mother came over and took a serious look at Will's face. Will, I just have to go out for something. When I come back, I will bring you your favorite ice cream. Will's father walked out of the room with a smile. Really, it's not good to eat ice cream all the time. Will, let me prepare some delicious desserts for you. I like all of them. A sweet smile appeared on Will's face, like the child who hadn't grown up yet. In the starry sky, time has never been a unit of measurement that deserves too much attention. Perhaps, for the outer gods in the old days, time never existed. In the blink of an eye, Hasta has been in the starry sky for a whole year. During this period, on the one hand, he cooperated with Will to continuously send the old clones of the outer god in the original barrier back to the starry sky. On the other hand, he truly experienced the vastness of the starry sky. He is preparing for his promotion to Sequence 0. The potion of the Sequence 2-star attendant basically melted in his mouth. After being promoted to the Sequence 1-star singer, the consciousness of the stars awakened as expected, and the fight with him for control of the body did not appear. Everything seemed to be developing in a good direction. After a period of adaptation, he also began to prepare to work towards Sequence 0. Because of the special nature of the stars, 3 copies of Sequence 1 extraordinary characteristics, regardless of the extraordinary path, are acceptable. Hasta once had a conjecture about this. The stars came from outside the universe. There may be no concept of extraordinary pathways in his universe. The star pathways are the product of the stars coming to this world and blending with this world. The simple understanding is to adapt to localization. This is how the star path captures the extraordinary characteristics of other extraordinary paths. As for the uniqueness of the star path, Hasta has not figured it out yet. Where is this thing? Is it unnecessary or does it not exist? He had once guessed that the Black Devourer, the Black Star conceived, was the only path to the stars, but in the end he denied this conjecture. The level of the Black Devourer obviously exceeds Sequence 0, how could it be unique? Perhaps the uniqueness of the star path has already been perfectly integrated with the star palace. He doesn't need to look for it anymore, it might fall into the hands of Hasta, the ruler of the old days. As for the rituals required to advance to Sequence 0, there are 2 different options for the star path. The first promotion ritual, take a magic potion to be promoted when the stars are shining. The second promotion ritual, take a magic potion to be promoted when the stars are extinguished. These are 2 completely opposite promotion rituals, one is radiant and the other is annihilated, which is easy to understand. When he awakens the dead stars through the power of the Singer of Stars, the starry sky will be shining with stars, and then he can take the potion to be promoted. Another promotion ritual is to extinguish all the stars that have been lit, so that the starry sky will return to silence. This is Hasta's initial guess, and whether it is true or not needs further verification. For him, the first promotion ritual is naturally more secure. The power of the Singer of Stars is to awaken the dead stars one by one. He only needs to continue to use the power of the Singer of Stars, and sooner or later there will be a day when the stars will shine. However, there are too many stars in the starry sky. Even if he awakens 10 stars a day, he doesn't know how many years it will take to awaken all the stars in the entire starry sky. Unless the promotion ritual requires the stars represented by the outer gods in the past, rather than all the stars, otherwise he will have to work until the end of time. For the second promotion ceremony, the number of stars that have been lit in the starry sky is less than 100, and it seems easier to extinguish them. But each star basically represents an outer god in the past. He doesn't have the ability to kill them one by one now. But there is a trick here, that is to awaken the Prime Creator. When the Prime Creator awakens, the universe will regroup, the starry sky will be completely extinguished, and he can hide in the Hall of Stars and wait for an opportunity to take the potion to advance to Sequence 0. This is the fastest and cruelest way to advance. Perhaps, this is the fastest way to advance to Sequence 0 arranged by the stars. Let the Prime Creator awaken, restart the universe, and make all rules and order disappear. The stars can take this opportunity to drive the Hall of Stars away from this universe. There is no better opportunity than this. The more Hasta thought about it, the more he felt that this possibility was very high. On the one hand, there was the shining of the stars that would take who knows how many years, and on the other hand, there was a shortcut that only required awakening the Prime Creator. The difference in time and energy required for the two was too great. If Adam were allowed to choose, he would definitely choose the awakening of the Prime Creator as the promotion ceremony without hesitation. After all, the stars are just outsiders to this starry sky, and outsiders don't need to cherish this temporary habitat. What a great temptation. Hasta sighed secretly, then used the power of the star singer to awaken a dead star in the starry sky again. This is a star with a comet tail, like a tadpole. After being awakened, he just rushed into the depths of the starry sky, and then stopped in one place, as if he was missing something, and seemed to have lost that little bit of sober reason again. Asta sat in the Hall of Stars, just looked at it for a few times and then looked away. He still needs to continue to awaken other stars. Alas, the stars also need to do hard work. The only consolation is that these stars awakened by him personally are closely connected with the Hall of Stars, and he can probably use the chess star technique on them 3 times. This is the reward they need to pay for awakening them. For them, this is simply a deal that can't be any cheaper. Hasta was controlling the Hall of Stars and was about to leave the starry sky when the star with the comet's tail flew out of the Hall of Stars, as if praying to the stars. With a hazy consciousness, it seemed that he could not even remember who he had been. Hasta sat in the Hall of Stars, looking at the comet outside that begged the stars to take it in. His light is no longer very bright, and is gradually dimming at a speed visible to the naked eye. Only by approaching the Hall of Stars and relying on the light of the Hall of Stars can he temporarily maintain his own light. He may have forgotten who he is, but he definitely understands who awakened him. At this moment, he is expressing his closeness to the stars, like a stray dog that is awakened by someone in the middle of winter. It is natural for him to get close to someone who can provide it with warmth. Hasta looked at him for a long time, and after confirming that he had no clear self-awareness and only had a weak instinct, he did not choose to expel him, but allowed him to stay far away within the light of the Hall of Stars. From a distance, the Hall of Stars seems to have an extra little tail. When the jinn came to the Hall of Stars and saw the comet lingering outside the Hall of Stars, he looked at it curiously, but he couldn't tell which ancient outer god this comet once belonged to. "I'm here today to express my gratitude to the stars on behalf of my friend." The jinn told Hasta about the recovery situation of Father God during this period, and asked in a low voice, he also wants to come to attend the meeting of the stars. "Are the stars willing?" "Okay." Hasta nodded, "This is a gift I gave you." The jinn sounded strange. A gift? Was it for this purpose that the stars asked each of them to recommend a new member? "Tell me what new news the fallen mother goddess and the others have during this period." After hearing these words, the jinn god immediately became excited and began to belittle the camp where the fallen mother goddess belonged. The fallen mother goddess can be said to be suffering from internal and external troubles at present. There are stars outside that keep sending the former clones of the outer gods back to the starry sky, causing their actions to be hindered many times. Inside, because more and more outer gods are joining his camp, large-scale turmoil often occurs, but not all outer gods are rational. Moreover, their sanity is often only temporary, while chaos and madness are permanent. When they were still rational, they knew they would join the camp of the fallen mother goddess and deal with the stars together. But once madness takes over their reason, they will start fighting each other, and some of the outer gods have hated each other since ancient times. In order to coordinate and resolve these matters, the fallen mother goddess was so busy that even the Crimson Moon's authority was taken back by the Desire Mother Tree. In the end, the fallen mother goddess simply ignored her and allowed the outer gods to fight in the stars, causing the entire camp to be in chaos. Hasta just listened silently, trying his best to pick out some barely useful information from the jinn's pile of nonsense. "What's going on with that star outside?" Before leaving, the jinn once again took a serious look at the comet chasing behind the Hall of Stars. "Like your friend, he has just regained consciousness and his brain is not very clear yet." The jinn laughed, "His brain has not been used for at least thousands of years, and it is indeed rusty. We need to go down and find him a bottle of lubricating oil to smear it on." In the southern continent, in a manor far away from the hustle and bustle of the world, Audrey was practicing her flower arrangement skills. Next to her, Susie, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, was lying in a sunny place, deftly turning the pages of the book with her right front paw, and then half of the body presents an enchanting posture, like a noble lady lying on her side. In the small lotus pond not far away, Ashera was walking back and forth on the shore, looking at the carefree little fish in it, her eyes shining slightly. After arranging the last rose flower, Audrey took 2 steps back and looked at her work up and down. She was quite satisfied and put her hands on her hips with an expression that said, "I'm really awesome." Susie just glanced back subconsciously, and then continued reading. Ashera didn't even glance back. She quickly stretched out a paw and patted the fish that came out of the water to exhale. It's a pity that Sharon is not here during this time, and Susie and Ashera don't know anything about elegant art. Audrey admired it for a while, then felt that she wasn't very interested. Since Sharon was promoted to Sequence 3 Silent Disciple, she has remained silent in order to digest the Silent Disciple potion as quickly as possible. Recently, she returned to the spirit world and lived in hiding in the castle left by her teacher. Our Miss Audrey looks very happy today. Hastur appeared behind Audrey, and on his shoulder, Grey Carrie transformed into a little firebird and stayed quietly. You must learn to cultivate your sentiments so that you can always maintain a good mood. Audrey turned to look at Hastur, and after a second glance, she frowned slightly, stepped forward and pinched Hastur's cheek, and asked curiously, "You seem to be different today than in the past." "Well, I am real today. Have you come back from the starry sky?" Audrey said in surprise, immediately attracting Susie and Ashera to come here together. "I have no plans to settle down in the stars. Who knows?" The corners of Audrey's mouth raised slightly, and her tone was particularly relaxed and pleasant. "There are only the old days of outer gods such as the fallen mother goddess and the mother tree of desire. HMPH, don't think I don't know, they are salivating over you." "You're absolutely right." Hastur smiled and joked with Audrey, and then was instructed by Audrey to work. "Come, help me move this flower arrangement to my bedroom on the second floor. I am a great star, you order me around like this. Would the great stars be willing to do something small? Ah, I accept my fate." Asta was carrying the flower pots in the back, with Ashera and Susie on both sides of him, and Audrey dancing gracefully in front. On the second floor, in Audrey's room, Asta placed the flower pots in place, then stretched his waist and said, "I haven't done hard labor for a long time, my waist is almost broken." "Okay, don't be so hard." Audrey smiled and motioned Asta to lie on the bed. "At most, I can help you massage your waist." Susie and Ashera looked at each other, trembling all over, and consciously left here, leaving the space for Audrey and Asta. "Why can you pass through the initial barrier? Let me think about how to answer you." Asta organized his words a little, and then told Audrey how he passed through the initial barrier. There must be remnants of the original creator's consciousness inside the initial barrier. Although this remnant of consciousness is not enough to awaken the original creator, if every time he crosses the initial barrier, it will stimulate the original creator, then it is not certain. So when he crosses the initial barrier, he cannot stimulate the original creator's consciousness to awaken. After being promoted to the Sequence 1 star singer, he had a general idea. And he tried to see whether the initial barrier blocked the Hall of Stars or him. The result is obvious. He can freely pass through the initial barrier, but the Hall of Stars cannot. If we follow the general idea, it means leaving the Hall of Stars in the starry sky and entering the initial barrier himself. But Hastur only thought about it for a while and rejected this plan. Once he is separated from the Hall of Stars, it is very likely that some unusual changes will occur, and he may send himself to a dead end. Then he thought of the authority of the star singer. Since he can awaken the dead stars, he can naturally make the stars fall into a dead state again. Hastur used this to disguise the Hall of Stars as a dead star, a meteorite without any breath or power of stars. It naturally passed through the initial barrier and arrived in the real world. Audrey's beautiful eyes were filled with tears. Although she could not fully understand Hastur's attempt, she must know that Hastur had put a lot of effort to do this. "Will you return to the starry sky in the future?" "Yes, that's where the future is determined." Audrey didn't say anything else, just leaned gently on Hastur's back. "Don't worry, the stars are destined to shine in the starry sky. I just think the stars are too far away for me. I prefer you to call me Mr. Hastur, and of course it would be even better if you add dear in front of it." "Dear Mr. Hastur," after Audrey called out, she blushed and said, "Sharon doesn't know you're back yet, you can't let her stay in the spirit world forever." Asta understood what Audrey meant, turned over, and hugged Audrey's waist. There was no need to open any space portal. He just hugged Audrey and appeared directly in Sharon's castle. Sharon, who was as silent as a stone statue, quietly returned to normal the moment she saw Hasta, with an undisguised smile in her eyes. At about 6 o'clock in the morning, Hasta got up early and rarely, and spent this time in the starry sky. He almost forgot the feeling of sleeping in bed. In the Hall of Stars, except for occasionally thinking about things, I don't feel sleepy, let alone want to sleep. He is now sequence 1. As his life level increases, he is slowly breaking away from the shackles of human beings and starting to transform from human to God. Sometimes he is curious about beings like the goddess of the night, Adam, and the god of knowledge and wisdom. What did they do at night? For them, is there any difference between night and day? What are you doing every day? Or did they simply close and open their eyes, and will not wake up from their deep sleep until there is external interference? Meow. With silent steps, Ashera jumped along the stair railing and onto Hasta's shoulders, then curled up and lay down obediently. How have you been practicing your calligraphy lately? Meow. Sharon is not around during this time, are you slacking off again? Meow. You should learn to focus from Susie. Meow. No matter what Hasta asked, Ashera only responded with a meaningless meow. Hasta patted its little head a few times, then took it out and wandered along the road paved with white marble. Not long after leaving, I saw Susie carrying a small brown backpack with several bulging books inside. It walked to a tidy area that had welcomed the sunrise, and it was a habit to look back and pull off the small backpack. When it caught a glimpse of Hasta and Ashera staring at it, it used its extraordinary ability to make the small backpack spontaneously floating from its back. The books inside also floated in midair one by one, and then landed safely in front of Susie. Susie put on her gold-rimmed glasses, lay down and changed into a comfortable position, and then started to turn the pages of the book and read. Seeing this scene, Ashera meowed dismissively. You, just be half as serious as Susie. Meow. Ashera held her head high and refused to comment on such criticism. Hasta did not continue to talk about Ashera. His cat always had to be pampered by himself, and Ashera's lazy temper had already been developed. Instead of being harsh, it would be better to let it be a happy kitten all the time. After wandering around, Hasta took Ashera back to the small villa to prepare for breakfast. Audrey and Sharon had also finished washing and went downstairs. When they saw Hasta, Sharon walked over silently, picked up Ashera, sat on the edge and started petting the cat, while Audrey went to the kitchen, saying that he wanted to prepare a dessert for Asta. Asta was a little uneasy about Audrey's cooking skills. There is an old saying that the more beautiful a woman is, the less she knows how to cook. He had never seen Audrey and Sharon cooking. If it's just dessert, no matter how bad it is, it won't be that bad, right? Asta thought for a while, then sat next to Sharon, holding one of her little hands, and joining in with the cat petting with the other hand. Sharon, it's your turn tonight, Hasta said to break the silence. Sharon was still silent and didn't speak. You are now a sequence 3 silent disciple. Being silent is definitely a way to go. Hasta said with a smile. Speaking of which, you don't seem to be ticklish, right? Sharon noticed Hasta's evil intentions and wanted to get up and carry Ashera away to the kitchen. You can escape now. I won't let you escape at night. Asta followed Sharon with a smile and headed to the kitchen together. Before he could go in, he was kicked out by Audrey. Asta had no choice but to stay outside with Susie, who had just returned. Not long after, Audrey showed up with Sharon with a dessert she had made. When the dessert was served, Asta breathed a sigh of relief. Almond tea, this dessert is very simple. It only requires almonds, sugar, water and other ingredients. It will never fail at Audrey's level. Asta took a sip slowly, and then looked at Audrey's expectant eyes and said slowly, this almond tea tastes like almonds, and a little sweet. Even Ashera knew that this was nonsense without any nutrition. Audrey glanced at Hasta and asked curiously, Dear Mr. Hasta, can your words only support you to express such a level of taste? Asta drank up a small bowl of almond tea and still said slowly, good things always need to be tasted slowly. I think my actions are the greatest compliment to your dessert skills. That's right. Audrey winked mischievously, Mr. Hasta's compliment is indeed good, but it's not good enough. Is there anything that needs improvement? If Mr. Hasta could drink all the little almond tea left in the kitchen. It's just a minor issue. Of course, for Mr. Hasta, a pot of almond tea is just an appetizer. Quote. Hasta silently shifted his gaze, looked at Sharon and said, Sharon, you can also try Miss Audrey's craftsmanship. Sharon did not speak, but held Ashera's little paw with both hands in a crossed posture of rejection. Sharon, how could you refuse Miss Audrey's kindness like this? Seeing that Hasta changed the subject, Audrey knocked on the table lightly and said, Mr. Hasta, you seem to have forgotten something very important. Really? Why don't I remember? Asta pretended to be confused, then looked at the table with a look of realization. Is it because of breakfast? That is indeed important. Audrey smiled and said nothing more, while Sharon held Ashera's two little paws and gently slid them under her eyes. So cute. People and cats are both cute. After the simple breakfast, the sky did not clear up, but there was a dull thunder, and gradually it started to rain lightly. Hasta just glanced at the sky, and through the authority of the eternal blazing sun, he let the sun disperse the dark clouds, revealing the blue and clear sky. The weather is really nice today. Audrey, who was in a sunny mood, took one of Sharon's arms and smiled. Sharon, let's go out for an outing together today. Sharon just nodded, recognizing Audrey's proposal. Asta had no objection and followed Audrey to bring some fruits, desserts and other simple foods. Ashera and Susie spontaneously brought their favorite foods. Ashera likes dried fish, and Susie also likes dried fish. Hasta drove the carriage around the path near the small villa and deep into the forest. When they arrived near a small lake, the green grass stretched out its soft figure in the sun, and then it was pushed down by Susie. Audrey got off the car wearing a sky blue wide-brimmed hat with small flowers woven from light yellow silk threads embroidered on the edge. Sharon still wore her favorite black small soft hat. Hasta spread out the tablecloth and placed the food in the car on the tablecloth one by one. Ashera and Susie also worked together, while Audrey held hands with Sharon and walked around the small lake. Enjoy the scenery of lakes and mountains. Ashara, Susie, do you know my status in this family now? Meow. Woof. You two are more considerate. As soon as Hasta finished speaking, Susie and Ashera, who had put their food on the tablecloth, trotted towards Audrey and Sharon together. Family status. Asta sighed. After finishing these trivial matters, he lay in the shade in the back, folded his hands behind his head, and looked at Sharon and Audrey, who had slowly returned not far away. This kind of life is still comfortable and far more interesting than living alone in the Palace of Stars. Mr. Hasta, you are very diligent today, Audrey said with a smile. Oh, I'm so busy that my whole body hurts. Do you need a massage? If you are willing, then I will not refuse. Then, let's forget it. If you ask yourself, maybe I will relent and agree. Dear Miss Audrey, can you help refresh your partner with a massage? Cannot. Audrey deliberately teased Hasta, while Sharon hugged Ashera and smiled slightly. Ashera and Susie also showed their own smiles. Hasta has never liked the silent disciple sequence in sequence 3 more than now. Sharon, who really doesn't say a word, has really interesting little expressions sometimes. More than half a year has passed, and Hasta has been accompanying Audrey, Sharon, Susie, and Ashera to go around. At night, he would go to the Hall of Stars and awaken the stars through the initial barrier. As for whether there are outer gods in those stars, whether they are kind, evil, or chaotic, he no longer cares. For the stars, the starry sky is everything to him. No matter what the outer gods are like, they should belong to the stars. Because of the existence of the initial barrier, Hasta has a peaceful life on this side, while the starry sky outside the initial barrier has become completely lively. One by one, the outer gods who have fallen or disappeared suddenly awaken again. Whether it is to fight for neighboring power, revenge, or simple chaos and madness, all these changes have occurred because of the existence of the stars, causing the entire starry sky to fall into chaos. Even the fallen Mother Goddess and the Mother Tree of Desire have no intention of fighting for the Crimson Moon, but tacitly retain some strength to prevent accidents. Hasta does not care about accidents and indirect help to the Mother Goddess of the Earth. Apart from the starry sky, the real world became extremely quiet, without any movement. Secret beings like the original witch, Adam, and the true creator all seemed to disappear suddenly, without any movement. For this, Hasta went to the Hall of Stars to observe for a long time, and indeed did not see any signs of movement from Adam and the others. Probably waiting for Amen to accommodate the sequence 1 Beander characteristics snatched from Pales. It is impossible to become a god secretly. Hasta just watched all this calmly. He would try his best to find a way to ruin Amon's path to becoming a god, or take advantage of Amon's opportunity to be promoted to a god to add some troubles to Adam and the true creator. But it is still unrealistic to solve Adam and the true creator in one go. When the outer gods entered the initial barrier, the maximum power he could allow them to maintain was only the Angel King, which could barely compare with gods such as the god of knowledge and wisdom and the god of steam and machinery, but the opponent was Adam and the true creator, and still lacked the most critical power. Because God cannot be trusted. Hasta thought a lot about this matter, all of which were casual thoughts while lighting up the stars. In the capital of the Republic of Intis, Klein, who was transformed into Antinous, was now being promoted to a Sequence 2 Miracle Master. After he received a Miracle Master Extraordinary feature from Hasta, he gradually reached his peak and began to try to be promoted. The time he chose was during the time when Russell returned to the capital of Intis. Everything went smoothly, and neither Amen nor Zeratul interfered with him. What is a miracle? Resurrection from the dead is a miracle. And he has successfully died once, well, to be precise, he died twice. Tisk, with Saphira Castle behind him, this promotion speed is so fast that it makes people envious. After Klein was successfully promoted, Russell said with envy. At that time, he did not have such a good opportunity as Klein. Not only did he have Saphira Castle, but he also had the stars and the sequence 0 of the Path of Destiny to protect him. The gift of destiny has been marked with a price from the beginning. Tisk, this is my famous saying. Russell said with a proud face. Plagiarist. There are a lot of plagiarists in the world. Russell shook his head and said, besides, I shoulder the heavy responsibility of inheriting the civilization of our time. Tisk, how shameless. You really should help me share the burden. I am responsible for the inheritance of civilization, and you are responsible for spreading the excellent Chinese fire. You should do things like sowing seeds yourself. After Klein and Russell joked with each other for a while, Russell's expression gradually became serious. You have been promoted to Sequence 2. No matter how careful you are, Zeratul and Amen must know your situation. In the future, you will face the most dangerous level of promotion to Sequence 0. The Lord of Mysteries involves 3 paths. Now Mr. Men has been exiled by the Goddess of Night and other gods. Amen has mastered the Thief path. The Diviner path you are in currently includes you, Zeratul, and the Half-Fool of the Infamily. The Half-Fool of the Infamily is now imprisoned by the Goddess of Night on the main peak of the Hornichus Mountains. Well, you should have been there. It belongs to the territory of the Goddess of Night. The person you should deal with first is Zeratul. He now has 2 extraordinary characteristics of Sequence 1 Mysterious Servant. The remaining one is still within Banu. If you want to be promoted to Sequence 1, you can only ask Zeratul for help. Russell took Klein's current situation seriously and planned his future promotion direction. Zeratul is not an easy person to deal with. He must have been on guard against you. What if I just want to stay at the Sequence 2 Miracle Master? Klein, who was listening silently, interrupted Russell's words. Are you serious? Russell looked at Klein in disbelief. Can you bear the temptation of being promoted to Sequence 0 and becoming a god? Klein smiled. Actually, I didn't really want to embark on this extraordinary path from the beginning. The end is full of madness and chaos. It's too tiring. Do you really think so? Russell showed a solemn expression. If I have always been a Sequence 2 Miracle Master, then the chance of the Lord of Mysteries wanting to awaken from my body will be lower. Perhaps for me, this is actually a good thing. Seeing that Klein was serious, Russell was silent for a moment and reminded him, as the end of the world approaches, the chances of the Lord of Mysteries awakening will become greater and greater. This is a hurdle that you will find difficult to overcome. Perhaps the stars can help me suppress the Lord of Mysteries from awakening in my body. How naive. Russell sighed in his heart. The reason why the stars have been helping Klein is because he urgently needs a comrade in arms who can move forward side by side. The outer god old days outside the starry sky, Adam in the original barrier, and the true creator are all obvious threats at present. Well, just make your own decision. Russell did not choose to dissuade him. He can think of these, and so can Klein. At present, Klein has lost his firm belief in moving forward. For an extraordinary person who has embarked on an extraordinary path, this is fatal. Maybe he is really too tired. All in all, Klein is just a young man who will not live to be 30 years old. He has done a good job and it is time to take a break. Russell patted Klein on the shoulder and gave him a bright smile. Klein took 2 steps back without leaving a trace. He just felt creepy. Backland, Klein gave up the identity of Antinous and chose to return to this city of hope with Klein's appearance and identity. His enemies now know his true identity, but Benson and Melissa still think he is dead. Will has been promoted to Sequence 0, but he still chooses to stay in Backland, to stay with his parents in this life. He is just a Sequence 2 miracle master, and he should also return to his family. Resurrection from the dead is a miracle, and his family should also witness this miracle together. Klein came to the street where Benson and Melissa were, looked up at the locked window, and then looked down at the pocket watch he carried with him. It is now 5 o'clock. In about an hour, Benson will be back from get off work, and Melissa will also go home from school. Well, there should be time for me to make dinner. Melissa should miss her cooking skills, after all, she and Benson's cooking skills are very poor. Thinking of this, Klein bought lamb wool, potatoes, butter, a small and exquisite cake, and other ingredients at the nearby vegetable market. He brought 2 bags full of things to the door of Benson and Melissa's house. The locked door naturally could not stop him, a miracle worker, and he easily walked through the door and entered the room. He first took a look at the layout of the room. Kitchen, living room, 2 bathrooms, and 3 bedrooms. Then he looked at the largest locked room on the right. He walked in silently, looking at the room that had not been occupied for a long time, but was clean and tidy, with a smile in his eyes. This is a room reserved for him. Even if he is no longer here, he is still an indispensable part of this family. The clock turned to 5:30. Klein left the room, went to the kitchen, put on a gray apron, and began to wash and prepare the ingredients. When he heard the sound of a key prying the door lock outside the door, Klein knew that the family he was waiting for had returned. What on earth do those people who are even dumber than curly-haired baboons have the right to sit in the office of the municipal building and talk and dictate about things they have never seen? Is it because of their clear stupidity? Or because of their severely bald heads? Or is it because of their innate sense of superiority and pretentiousness? It's terrible. Fortunately, the salaries of civil servants in Backland are not bad. Especially after the new ruler came to power, the salaries of low-level civil servants have increased 3 times in a year. Well, for the sake of the cute little money, he will no longer be angry with the group of curly-haired baboons. Oh, the new ruler is said to be quite young. Benson chattered to Melissa about what he encountered at work. For convenience and safety, Benson would pick up Melissa from school after get-off work every day, and then take a bus back together for 6 pence. Until they returned to the familiar streets, they chose to walk the last part of the way and chat together. Every time Benson finished talking about his work, Melissa would talk about her life in school. Family, something that sounds simple but is very luxurious. What I regret most now is that I didn't study hard. If my knowledge had improved a little, I might have been promoted further. You should understand that this kingdom is seriously lacking in talents, especially those with real talents and knowledge. Click. As Benson spoke, he opened the door with the key, so the most important thing for you in school now is to study hard. Of course, more important than this is to learn to take good care of yourself first, such as rewarding yourself with a small cake every day. Benson took out a carefully wrapped strawberry cake from his briefcase, shook it in front of Melissa, and then solemnly placed it in her palm before pushing the door to enter the house. As soon as he entered the door, Benson habitually wanted to put down his briefcase and lie on the sofa to rest for a while. He called this behavior the time to treat the curly-haired baboon's paranoia. He first solved the annoying emotions at work, and then he could love his family better. But today, before he had time to do this, he was stimulated by the smell coming from the kitchen as soon as he entered the door. At first, he was terrified and thought it might be a natural gas leak, so he protected Melissa behind him. Backland had frequent natural gas leaks some time ago, causing several explosions and killing many people. Later, he smelled it carefully and confirmed that it was the meaty smell emitted when cooking beef. When we went out this morning, we were stewing meat. Did you forget to turn off the fire? No. Melissa gave a very affirmative answer. She looked around and said with a little fear, "It seems that there is someone in the kitchen." As soon as she finished this sentence, there was a sound of cutting carrots, pumpkins and other ingredients in the kitchen. If it's a person, it's easy to deal with. Benson breathed a sigh of relief. He handed the briefcase to Melissa and lowered his footsteps. He first took a solid wooden stick hanging on the back of the door, which was as long as an arm. First, he swung it twice in the air to try the feel, and then Benson tried to lower his footsteps and walk towards the kitchen. He thought that if the thief chose to break into a house just because he was hungry, he would generously treat the other party to a meal, and then send him away politely, and would not call the police directly. Although this is Backland, there are still many homeless and poor people without a source of income. In the past 2 years working in the city government, he has also seen a lot of such things at the grassroots level. It seems that after the heavy snow that year, many factories closed down, causing many workers to lose their jobs. Although the government later allocated a lot of relief funds, it slightly alleviated the embarrassing situation. Benson thought in a complicated way, and when he approached the kitchen door, his thoughts changed to, "This thief's beef stew is very good. Just smelling the aroma of meat makes people hungry." Unfortunately, their family does not need a chef, or more precisely, they do not need an outsider to intervene in their daily lives. When Benson, who was holding a solid wooden stick high, saw the face of the figure who was still busy in the kitchen, the next moment, the wooden stick in his hand fell to the ground with a snap. Melissa, who was worried about Benson, rushed over and entered the kitchen. "Oh, Benson, Melissa, the kitchen at home is still too small. You wait outside for a while. In about 10 minutes, you can have dinner. You can wash your hands and clean up the shocked expressions on your faces, and think about the questions you will ask later." Under such a familiar voice, Benson and Melissa left the kitchen and sat on the sofa blankly, looking towards the kitchen at the same time. After a minute, or maybe 3 minutes, Benson and Melissa looked at each other, opened their mouths, but said nothing. Benson's eyes turned red, he stood up tremblingly, and staggered towards the bathroom. He had to wash his face. Melissa was the only one sitting on the sofa, pursing her lips tightly, her eyes were already wet. After sitting alone for a while, she was restless and stood up, but she did not go to her own bathroom, but came to the kitchen door, her eyes were fixed on the figure who was about to finish his work. It wasn't until Benson wiped his face and came out of the bathroom that Melissa returned to the sofa from the kitchen door. She looked at Benson for a few times, both of them understanding each other and saying nothing. The hand of time seemed to be moving very slowly at this moment. It was only 10 minutes, but Benson had to go to the bathroom several times. Every time Benson went to the bathroom, Melissa would go to the kitchen door to guard in case anyone inside suddenly disappeared. "Benson, Melissa, it's time for dinner." Klein came out of the kitchen with beef stew. Melissa just glanced at him and went to the kitchen of her own accord, bringing out the other 2 dishes. Maury set the tableware. The 3 people were sitting in their respective seats as usual. "I haven't changed much, right?" Klein touched his cheek. He hadn't used his original appearance for a while. When he looked in the mirror, he felt much stranger. Benson and Melissa just shook their heads and did not speak. "That's good. I'm afraid I'm too unfamiliar and you won't recognize me." Klein smiled and said, "If you haven't decided what to ask yet, you can finish dinner first. We still have a lot of time in the future." Quote. "Benson, you have lost a lot of weight recently. You need to eat more beef. Melissa, it's time for you to grow up. Don't treat yourself badly when studying." As Klein spoke, Benson and Melissa each filled a bowl of beef stew. "You don't have to worry about money. My salary has increased recently. Now my weekly salary is about £22 a week. If you add some living allowances and bonuses, my annual income has exceeded £1,500. It's higher than the salary of an average barrister. Benson, you've been wearing this suit for many years. It's time to change into a new one. There is a famous clothing store in the West End, and the craftsmanship is also very good. Melissa, you should also buy yourself a few new sets of skirts. Beautiful clothes are always an indispensable decoration for a girl. We should also buy a new big house, preferably with 4 bathrooms. As for hiring a chef or a servant, I don't think we can adapt to outsiders entering our lives yet. That's okay. My work is much easier now than before. I can get off work and go home at 5 o'clock every day. I have normal holidays on Saturdays and Sundays, and I also get half a month of annual leave every year. The working environment is also good. It is in the Hillston area, which is relatively prosperous, and shopping is very convenient, except that the price is a bit expensive. Benson, you should have been there too. I have plenty of time. I can cook for dinner in the future. Of course, on Saturdays and Sundays, we can go out and enjoy specialties from different places. Eat some quickly, otherwise it will cool down. In that case, the taste will be much worse. My cooking skills haven't deteriorated yet, I hope. Come on, have a taste. With a relaxed smile on his face, Klein spoke slowly. He felt that he had not spoken for a long time, so when he started talking, he couldn't stop talking and wanted to keep talking until he finished all the things he had not had time to say in these years. Benson and Melissa still didn't speak, they just ate the beef stew in the bowl silently. It tasted very good because it still had the same taste. But it seems to have changed a bit, with a bit more mature flavor after precipitation. After eating a few mouthfuls, Melissa could no longer hold back her emotions and lay on the table and burst into tears. Benson was also affected by Melissa's sudden burst of emotion and wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes with the back of his hand. Klein just smiled and watched the scene. He had missed so much over the years, but fortunately, he was back now. In fact, he really should come back earlier, and earlier. But it's okay now, Benson and Melissa have been staying there waiting for him to come back. About half an hour or an hour later, Klein took the beef stew back to the kitchen to heat it up. When he brought it out again, Benson and Melissa gradually calmed down. But they still couldn't believe that Klein was really back. They had dreamed of such daily life many times before, and even thought about what would happen after Klein got married. Are you really back? Benson said the first sentence tremblingly. I'm not dreaming, am I? I'm really back, I've never died. Klein explained seriously. At the beginning, I had a top secret mission. I had to, there was no way, I needed to fake my death to get out, and then carry out this secret mission. Although I don't want to deceive you, I don't want to see you cry for someone like me who faked his death. But someone has to complete the mission. You know, the whole world has changed a lot during this period of time, and I am working hard to save this world. What I can do is limited, but as a believer of the goddess of night and a member of the Night Watchers, maintaining the peace of this world is something we must face and deal with. Benson, Melissa, please forgive me for deceiving you with such a lie. Klein explained for a long time before Benson and Melissa gradually accepted this miracle of resurrection. Because they had been hoping so naively from the beginning, but the passage of time had worn away the hope in their eyes. But in the corner of their hearts, there was still a small but firm place that always believed. Woo. Why did you come back just now? Do you know how much Benson and I miss you? Melissa threw herself into Klein's arms, her trembling voice intermittent, and she could no longer hear the blame. Klein was just distressed. He gently patted Melissa's back and comforted her. I'm back, and I won't leave again, really, I will always be with you and Benson. Compared to Melissa, who collapsed and cried, Benson seemed much calmer. He slightly turned his body so that Klein could not see his specific expression clearly. After a while, when Melissa calmed down a little, he asked Klein about the details of their life together in Tingen City with a stern face. Although he hoped that the person in front of him was the real Klein, he was more afraid that he was fake and it was a false joy. After some inquiries, Klein's fluent responses, as well as his personality and habits, were exactly the same as Klein's original self. You're really back. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. Benson finally let go of the last bit of his suspicion and doubt, believing that the young man in front of him, who was no longer so handsome, was his brother Klein who had suddenly passed away. Here, Melissa, this is a small cake specially prepared for you. Klein took out the small cake he bought from the corner of the kitchen and handed it to Melissa. Just like before, Melissa just lowered her head and tasted the small cake in her hand. I was busy talking just now, and the pot of beef stew has cooled down. Benson wiped the corner of his eyes with the back of his hand, embarrassed to speak. It's okay, just heat it up again, it still tastes the same. Klein said with a smile, then took the pot of beef stew and walked into the kitchen to heat it again. After heating, Benson ate a large piece of stewed beef. After a long silence, he smiled and said, "Yes, it still tastes the same as before. It has never changed." This time, Benson and Melissa still had a full stomach. The difference was that Benson and Melissa did not have stomach upset because of eating too much. It's great. Yes, it's great. It will always be so beautiful in the future. After dinner, the three of them sat on the sofa and talked about what happened to them over the years. When the clock pointed to 10 o'clock in the evening, Benson and Melissa were still energetic and did not look sleepy at all. Benson said he could take 3 days off, and Melissa also said that the teachers in her school were easy to talk to. Knock, knock, knock. The door was knocked, and Benson and Melissa's heartbeats skipped a beat unnaturally. They stared at Klein with worried and nervous eyes, fearing that he would disappear because of the sudden knock on the door. "I will stay here forever." Klein smiled and asked Benson to open the door. When Benson opened the door nervously, he was stunned for a long time before inviting the late-night visitor into the house. Archbishop Anthony, now the head of St. Samuel Church. Benson and Melissa knew that Klein was a believer of the goddess of night. After Klein's sudden death, they went to St. Samuel Church many times to pray to the goddess of night. They had a deep impression of this Archbishop Anthony. "Sir, madam, please forgive me for disturbing you tonight." Archbishop Anthony took off his black hat and bowed slightly. "Respected Archbishop Anthony, it is our honor to have you here," Benson said politely with trepidation. When he saw Archbishop Anthony's eyes fall on Klein from time to time, his heart tightened and he said nervously, "Archbishop Anthony, I know that as a believer of the goddess of night and a respected night watcher, it is a great honor, but can you please not let my only brother, my dearest who just came back alive, take risks again?" "Mr. Benson, I think you have misunderstood something. I am not here to ask Mr. Klein to do anything dangerous. I am only here to apologize to you and to prove his identity." Archbishop Anthony smiled gently, looked at Klein and said, "Dear Mr. Klein, he is the most devout believer of the goddess and the beacon of the night watchers. He has completed the task assigned by the goddess and successfully returned to Backland. The rest of his life will be full of glory, without adventure." Hearing this, Benson and Melissa breathed a sigh of relief at the same time, and then realized that they had not invited Archbishop Anthony to take a seat, but had asked this distinguished guest who came from afar to stand and talk all the time. "How rude, please sit here." Benson invited Archbishop Anthony to take a seat, and after he sat down, Klein said his first sentence. "Archbishop Anthony, are you here tonight to convey the oracle of the goddess? You are a devout believer of the goddess, and you have made great contributions to the peace of the whole world. The goddess specially sent down the oracle to reward your achievements." Archbishop Anthony spoke very politely. He already knew that the young-looking Mr. Klein in front of him was now a Sequence 2 miracle master. This is an earthly angel. From the degree of importance the goddess attaches to him, he is very likely to be the goddess's favored one. Perhaps in the future, this Mr. Klein will become the Pope of the Church of the Goddess of Night, or the existence second only to the Pope. Thank you for the goddess's blessing. Klein simply thanked the goddess. He didn't want to get involved in too many trivial matters now. Even more, he didn't want to directly intervene in the conflict between the goddess of night and the stars, even though the goddess of night did help him. Praise the goddess. Archbishop Anthony said with a pleasant face, "I think I should leave. Today is the day for you to reunite and I shouldn't disturb you." Benson and Melissa looked at each other, gave up the polite words of retention, and just silently sent Archbishop Anthony to the door. The door closed again, and Benson and Melissa breathed a sigh of relief. "Klein, I want you to promise me and Melissa that you will never take risks again," Benson said seriously. "I will try my best to do this." Klein. Benson was a little disappointed. "I don't want to say deceitful words. I am willing to be ordinary and stay with you all the time, but if something really happens, I can't just sit back and watch." Quote. Benson and Melissa didn't say anything else, but just asked Klein to put his own safety first. At 2 or 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, Melissa reluctantly went back to her room to sleep. As for Benson, he insisted on staying in the same room with Klein, so as not to wake up, and Klein disappeared again. When Benson had just spread the bedding, the door was knocked. It was Melissa. She held a ball of bedding in her hands, her eyes were firm, and she wanted to sleep on the floor in Klein's room. Klein just smiled at this scene, and then suggested going to the living room to sleep on the floor and chat until dawn. Why? Why do you reject my prayers? Why can't you let me go to the Hornichus Mountains again? Why can't you let me try again? Why do you, the goddess of night, block my final path to promotion? In the dead of night, in the dark night, Zeratul roared wildly at the night like a completely enraged beast. The night was as calm as ever, without any disturbance due to the roar of wild beasts. The angry roars turned into a hoarse whisper at the end. You are not optimistic about him, you would rather choose a miracle master who has just been promoted to Sequence 2. Zeratul laughed to himself, then put away his anger and turned into extreme coldness. What is the reason for this current situation? Obviously he already possesses 2 Sequence 1 mysterious waiter extraordinary characteristics. As long as he goes to the Honekes Mountains and finds Antigonus, who is known as the half-fool, he can have the final fight. Once you succeed, you will be Sequence 0, and you will be the real fool. That Mr. Fool from the Tarot Club is just an imposter thief, and he is the person who has gone the furthest on this path of fortune-telling. However, whether it is the stars or the goddess of the night, they all choose to be optimistic about Klein's miracle master and ignore themselves. He had to admit that Klein's life trajectory was indeed extraordinary, but he was currently the one closest to success. Perhaps by solving that Klein, we can force the night goddess to choose us and give us a chance to go to the Honekes Mountains, because the night goddess has no better choice. Such an idea suddenly came to Zeratul's heart, but soon, he gave up this naive idea. The stars are still watching everything in the sky. If you go to find Klein, you will fall into a trap. Now it is Klein who needs to find him, not he who needs to find Klein. While Zeratul was whispering alone, a smiling voice came from behind. It's so pitiful. No one has chosen you. You have been completely abandoned. In the end, you can only become someone else's foil. Zeratul didn't need to look back to know that the person speaking was Aemon. Oh, Aemon was not a human being. What about you? How much better can you be than me? Zeratul sneered, as the son of the ancient sun god, you have not yet become a god, and the stars are always watching you in the starry sky. Even if you collect 3 copies of the time, what about the extraordinary characteristics of the insect? Do you dare to be promoted directly? Have you met the conditions for the promotion ceremony? So I came to find you. Aemon said in a calm tone. You should know the ritual conditions required for the thief to advance to Sequence 0 through the extraordinary path. Replace others to become a god. Zeratul's eyes narrowed slightly, and then there was a hint of ridicule at the corner of his mouth. Do you think I will voluntarily become your stepping stone? Yes, because you have no other better choice. You are very confident. Zeratul still sneered. Am I really that stupid in your eyes? You are naturally smart. Only smart people know how to leave a way out for themselves. You want to help me get into the Honekes Mountains? Yes. Do you have this ability? The thief path is best at finding loopholes. The Honekes mountain range is just a slightly more troublesome iron box. As long as I am willing, I can configure a suitable key at any time. Oh, will the goddess of the night sit back and watch you do whatever you want? Meeting. Zeratul was silent for a while, then smiled. Unfortunately, my answer is still no. He has understood the meaning of Amon's words. He wants to let himself enter the Honekes Mountains and find Antigonus. When he starts to advance to Sequence 0, he will replace him and become a god. And the only price he had to pay was to spare his own life. It sounds like I am at a loss, but in fact I am still at a loss. What do you think the goddess of the night and the stars who have rejected you want to do most next? Aemon pushed up his monocle, and the crystal lens flashed with the light of the starry sky. You are dating Klein. If he wants to move forward on the same extraordinary path, you must abdicate. You are mortal enemies, and reconciliation is destined to be impossible. Quote. So what? I would rather die on the road to becoming a god than be used as a stepping stone. You underestimate me. Zeratul showed no interest in continuing to chat with Aemon and left directly, disappearing into the night sky. Middle. Yes, you do have a strong belief. Unfortunately, no one is optimistic about you anymore. This is not a calculation, but a clear plan. Aemon whispered softly, as long as he creates a loophole in the Honekes Mountains, can Zeratul really endure the temptation of being promoted to Sequence 0? Zeratul's end has already been determined. Becoming a stepping stone on the road to success for others is his final destination. In fact, the goddess of the night did not let Zeratul enter the Honekes Mountains, not only because she was not optimistic about Zeratul, but she was also on guard against herself. Prevent yourself from being promoted to God with the help of Zeratul. Oh, the gods at both ends of the head and rat. On the one hand, he keeps a distance from the stars, but on the other hand, he is afraid that his side is too strong. Backland, it has been a month since Klein came back to live here. He works from Monday to Friday until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then comes back by carriage. He first goes to the vegetable market to buy some ingredients, and then goes home to cook. Benson and Melissa usually go home for dinner at 5:40. Usually after dinner, Klein will take them out for a walk, such as to the West End or Queens, to experience backland life with rich nightlife. On Saturdays and Sundays, Klein would buy tickets for art performances in advance, such as operas, circus performances, symphonies, etc. It seems that your life after returning to Backland is very good. We'll listen to Klein's description of his life during this period. Isn't your life also enviable? You are different from me. Will paused and smiled. Nothing, it's good this way. Do you know where Leonard is now? He has become a bard. If you want to find him, taverns everywhere are good places. He always has an enviable free and easy manner. After chatting for a while, Klein invited, I will cook tonight. Do you want to taste my cooking? This is naturally a good thing. In the evening, Klein cooked himself, and Will sat on the sofa outside to chat with Benson and Melissa. Benson was quite talkative and talked to Will about Klein's past. Melissa occasionally said a few words. After dinner, Will got up and left. At night, Klein lay on the bed and fell asleep. The black night enveloped his dream. Deep in the dream, there was a huge black mountain range that was looming, and whispers came from the huge black mountain range. Honekes. Fregara. The murmurs that he hadn't heard for a long time appeared again in his dream, and Klein became alert all of a sudden. He carefully looked at the huge black mountain in the dream, and saw that there was a gray historical fog on the periphery of the huge black mountain. There seemed to be a figure roaring wildly in the fog. He seemed to want to enter the black mountain, but was isolated from the outside and could not do so. Soon, the dream dissipated, and Klein woke up. For him, who was already a Sequence 2 miracle master, dreams were no longer simply empty things, but a revelation of the current situation and the future. The Black Mountain was undoubtedly the Honekes Mountain, and the main peak was the Kingdom of Night, the territory of the Goddess of Night. The gray historical fog lingering outside should refer to Zeratul, and he was trying to find a way to enter the Honekes Mountain. He wanted to go in and find the half-fool for the final fight. Once successful, he would be the Sequence 0 fool. This was a revelation, and it was also the last chance given to him by the Goddess of Night. If he had chosen to stay in Backland and live a comfortable life, then the Goddess of Night would give Zeratul the opportunity to enter the Honekes Mountains and help Zeratul make the final attempt. The fool, Klein whispered, thinking of the tarot club he founded. The members of the tarot club believed in Mr. Fool so much. Did he really want to give up the position of the fool to Zeratul? P.S. I caught a cold recently, and my head is dizzy. Please forgive me for the delayed update. The extraordinary road can only move forward, not backward. He has always understood this truth, but he really feels tired. The road ahead is full of unknown dangers, which is far less than Benson and Melissa's call. Let Zeratul go. Klein just thought so, trying not to dwell on this issue. Fool, whoever wants to be a fool, go. He is just Klein, Benson's trustworthy younger brother, and Melissa's good brother. It's almost Monday. Such an idea suddenly popped up in Klein's mind, making him stunned. The tarot club is still going on. Klein sat at the head of the bronze long table, looking at Miss Justice, who was greeting all the members of the Tarot Club one by one. She looked in a good mood, and her demeanor and behavior revealed an indescribable beauty. For the Tarot Club, Miss Justice may care more about it than himself. "Mr. Fool, you seem a little tired." After greeting him, Audrey was keenly aware that Mr. Fool was in an unusual mood. He seemed to be a little entangled, as if he was caught in a difficult contradiction. "I have encountered some things recently." Klein just responded, and did not discuss in depth, but let the Tarot Club members start a free discussion. "I recently learned a piece of news that Zeratul, the leader of the secret society, suddenly went crazy some time ago. He seemed to be in a state of madness and did many shocking things. Zeratul, it is suspected that he has been around the Hornichus Mountains recently. I have also heard of him. He was very active during the time of Emperor Russell. Zeratul, he seems to be a powerful, extraordinary person of the fortune-teller path." The Tarot Club members discussed for a while and looked at Mr. Fool, who was sitting at the head. "Zeratul is preparing to be promoted to Sequence 0. Klein's plain words made it difficult to hear what kind of mood he was in when he said this. "Will Mr. Fool agree to Zeratul's promotion to Sequence 0? Alger asked boldly. "Do you know what Sequence 0 of the Diviner's Path is called?" Klein's eyes swept over each of them, and then he said, "The Fool." Hearing this, the Tarot Club members could no longer remain calm. "The Fool, Sequence 0 of the Diviner's Path is the Fool. If Zeratul really advances to Sequence 0, how will Mr. Fool deal with it? Will there be two Fools? Since Mr. Fool already exists, doesn't that block the path to becoming a god? The best possibility for Zeratul is to reach Sequence 2. Unless Mr. Fool's Fool is just a code name, with no special meaning. But is this possible? The more such existences are, the stronger their words and deeds are." The Tarot Club members were silent for a long time, and finally Audrey broke the silence. "Mr. Fool, do you really want to see Zeratul become the Fool? He may not succeed." Klein just explained. "Mr. Fool, forgive me for being so rude. I and other members of the Tarot Club just want to know why you remain silent about such a thing." Audrey saw the struggle in Mr. Fool's heart just now. Even if it was only a brief moment, she saw the rare feeling of loss and hesitation in Mr. Fool's heart. "I'm tired." Klein leaned back slightly on his chair and smiled. "No matter what, the Tarot Club is still the Tarot Club, and there will still be a Mr. Fool here." "Mr. Fool." Audrey just whispered and didn't continue to talk about it. Soon, the members of the Tarot Club talked about other topics, such as the Star Sea Kingdom on the Rorstad Islands, which has been more and more prosperous recently, and various rules and regulations have been gradually accepted and implemented by the pirates. A new kingdom full of new rules and order is rising. Some people say that Queen Bernadette of the Star Sea Kingdom is very likely to become the next Black Emperor. They also talked about the recent actions of the Republic of Intis, and finally sighed that the Gustav family is still the protagonist of this era. Klein just smiled and listened quietly. After finishing the Tarot Club this week, Audrey came out of the room and went downstairs. She saw Hasta and Sharon drinking tea and teasing Susie and Ashera in the garden. "Ashera, come and perform a backflip for Susie." "Meow." Ashera curled up in Sharon's arms and gave Hasta a disdainful look. "Susie, you come and show Ashera a way of reading 10 lines at a glance." "Woof." Susie was eager to try. Seeing Audrey coming, Susie came over with her tail wagging. "Audrey, you don't look very happy. Did something happen?" "Susie, I do have some troubles, but I don't think you can solve this problem for me," Audrey said patiently. "Audrey, okay, if you have any troubles that you need to talk about, you can come to me." Susie returned to Hasta's feet and lay down, wagging her tail. "Is it about Mr. Fool?" Hasta saw the source of Audrey's inner troubles at a glance. "Mr. Hasta, do you know what happened to Mr. Fool recently? Are you interested in going back to Backland?" Hasta invited. "It's been a long time since I went back. Then we'll set off later. Sharon, you should come with me. Marich must be lonely in Backland alone." "Meow." Ashera also came over. "Ashera, you can't go back. Who told you not to perform a backflip just now?" "Meow." Ashera was stunned for a while, then did a backflip on the spot. The sunset was gradually swallowed by the mountains, and Hasta took Sharon, Audrey, Ashera, and Susie to the streets of Backland. Sharon left first. She wanted to visit Marich and learn about some of the things that the Temperance faction had experienced during this period. Mr. Hasta, should you tell me the purpose of returning to Backland now? There is a patient with psychological problems here. He may be able to treat and guide you. Do I know him? I should know him. I hope I won't disappoint you. Hasta took Audrey to where Klein lived. He deliberately chose a time when Benson and Melissa had not returned yet. When Klein opened the door, he saw Asta and Audrey appearing outside, their expressions obviously unnatural. You sit down for a while, wait for me to finish this dish. Klein went back to the kitchen and got busy. Asta just looked at everything in the room slowly, while Audrey frowned slightly, stared at Klein in the kitchen for a while, and then shook her head. It should be her own illusion. At a certain moment just now, she actually overlapped the figures of Mr. Klein and Mr. Fool. Because Mr. Klein and Mr. Fool have the same psychological problems, they are both hesitating, and trapped in a contradiction that is difficult to reconcile. Soon, Klein finished his work in the kitchen and walked out. He went to the bathroom to wash up first, and then came to receive Asta and Audrey. Mr. Asta, Miss Audrey, please forgive me for my rude behavior in ignoring you just now. It's just a small matter. Asta glanced at Klein and said, we are here today for the same small matter. Mr. Asta, you can talk. It's like this. I heard from Will that you have been in a bad mood recently and may have some psychological problems. This Miss Audrey is an excellent psychologist. She has a very profound attainment in treating psychological problems. I believe she can solve some of your psychological troubles. Klein was silent for a while, then forced a smile and said, Mr. Asta, do you also think that my choice is wrong? When you ask this question, it proves that you are also questioning your choice in your heart. Quote, I will regret whatever choice I make. Maybe. Klein was silent for a while, then smiled at Audrey and said, Ms. Audrey, please help me solve this little psychological problem. Audrey shook her head and said, I don't think you need a great psychologist. All you need is some time to think more clearly. What if I still can't think clearly? Mr. Klein, not everything needs to be thought through clearly. Sometimes it's better to go on with your head covered and unwavering. Even if the road is full of dangers. Mr. Klein, you don't look like someone who is afraid of danger. I think you just lack the necessary rest time. You look too tired. Too tired, maybe. Klein just nodded, acknowledging Audrey's diagnosis of his mental condition. But there is one thing, Mr. Klein, I need to explain to you. Audrey said gently, the road of life has always been moving forward slowly. Staying in the same place and looking back is certainly good, but such a life is equivalent to staying in the same place. Miss Audrey, do you know what choice I am currently hesitating about? Klein asked curiously. I don't know, I just analyzed and summarized the psychological state presented by you. Even if I know something, it was you who told me. Thank you for your advice just now. Klein smiled and said nothing more. Audrey paused for a while before tentatively asking, Mr. Klein and I should have just met for the first time, but you seem to have known me for a long time. Mr. Hasta always boasts to me that his fiancée is the most dazzling pearl in Backland. Klein's face did not reveal any flaws. He knew that Audrey, as a spectator, had doubted his identity. Hasta did not expose Klein's lies, but whispered in his heart, Klein, if you really let go of all this and choose to live in peace, then what you should do now is to tell Audrey honestly that you are Mr. Fool. Mr. Fool, this identity is destined for Klein to be unable to let go. In fact, Hasta did not want to force Klein to move forward, but Zeratul was about to be recognized by the goddess of night. Once Zeratul entered the Hornichus Mountains, if he succeeded, he would be the new Fool, and if he failed, he would be the stepping stone for Aemon to become a god. No matter which of these two results, it was not a good thing for Klein. Hasta and Audrey did not stay in Klein's house for long. They left before Benson and Melissa came back. Audrey and Hasta were walking on the street. Audrey said, Mr. Klein lied just now, even though he covered it up very well. Everyone has a side that he doesn't want to be known. Oh, is Mr. Hasta the same? What did you ask in that question just now? I said Mr. Klein lied just now. Well, he did lie, and that's obvious. Quote. Audrey smiled and said, Mr. Hastur's mind is very fast. Because I've improved a lot with you. Since Mr. Hastur is so good at talking, I'll generously reveal the question just now. The two walked slowly along the street, sometimes looking at the surrounding street scenes, discussing the changes in Backland during this period, and sometimes talking about the air quality problem that Backland has not improved. At night, when Benson and Melissa came back, they saw Klein sitting on the sofa in a daze. Melissa hesitated to speak, and finally stayed where she was. Benson sighed and chose to walk towards Klein. Melissa wanted to grab the corner of Benson's clothes, but her hand was only halfway extended before it retracted. Benson, you're back. Klein came out of his daze and smiled. I cooked a few of my favorite dishes today. Although it's my first time, I think they taste good. Klein. Benson called Klein and hesitated. I know you've kept a lot of things from me and Melissa, but we don't care because we know you're doing it for our own good. But you shouldn't hide your true thoughts. In addition to staying in Backland to accompany Melissa and me, you should have other things you want to accomplish, right? Although we like you to stay with us all the time and don't want you to take risks, we don't want to confine you to this small world for your whole life because of our own reasons. Speaking of this, Benson laughed at himself and said, Melissa and I have a small world, while your world is very big. Maybe you should do something great and full of miracles. It's also a great thing for me to be able to accompany you quietly like this all the time. Klein patted Benson's shoulder, straightened his wrinkled collar for him, and smiled, let's eat first. It won't taste good if it gets cold. At night, Klein had another dream. It was still the whisper of Honekes. Phlegra, and it was still the huge black mountain range. Slightly different from the last time, the figure in the gray historical mist no longer roared hysterically. He seemed to be enjoying a kind of tranquility, the tranquility of the night. When the dream shattered, Klein woke up. The meaning of this dream was very clear. Zarathu in the historical mist was gaining the recognition of the goddess of night. Perhaps it would only take one day, perhaps tonight, the goddess of night would allow Zarathu to enter the Honechus Mountains for a final attempt. 2 consecutive dreams are no longer simply from premonitions. These are dreams specially given by the goddess of night. He wants to tell himself that he has little time to consider. Klein understood the meaning of this dream. As the saying goes, 3 things never happen. If the goddess of night gives a third dream, it means that he has completely given up on himself and chooses to help Zarathu enter the Honechus Mountains for the final fight. Keep going, or stay where you are. Klein got up from the bed, opened the door, looked at the closed doors of Benson and Melissa, paused for a while, then walked to the bathroom, walked 4 steps in the opposite direction, and went to Saphira Castle, where he sat quietly at the head of the bronze table. His eyes swept over the seats belonging to Miss Justice, Mr. Hanged Man, Little Sun, Vampire, Miss Magician, Leonard, Ms. Hermit, and the world. After Klein came down from Saphira Castle, he washed his face and returned to his room. As soon as his door was closed, Benson and Melissa's doors opened silently one after another. Benson and Melissa looked at each other, with a look of relief and nervous worry in their eyes. Go to sleep. Benson closed the door again, and Melissa nodded, looked at Klein's door, and closed it to rest. The next day, before Benson went to work and Melissa went to school, Klein smiled and said, I have rested for a long time during this period, and I have thought a lot. I think I still need to complete that last thing. Melissa subconsciously stood up from the sofa, looking nervous and uneasy, but she finally sat down with red eyes. No matter what decision you make, we will choose to support you silently. Thank you. Melissa and I each took a day off today. I heard that a grand ceremony was held in Queens around 10:30 in the morning. It was very lively. Okay, let's go together later. At around 9 o'clock, Klein and the other 2 set off in a carriage. It was already 10 o'clock when they arrived in Queens. When they arrived here, Klein understood why Queens was so lively today. In order to welcome Mr. Hastur back to Backland, the new governor of the Kingdom of Lowen, Greg Nigan, specially invited a bunch of dance troupes or circuses to perform grand performances. No tickets are required. As long as you are dressed neatly, you can come and enjoy it for free. After watching the song and dance troupe's performance, Klein and his two companions found a more luxurious restaurant in Queens to enjoy a luxurious lunch. In the afternoon, they went to the circus to watch animal training and acrobatic performances. When they returned home, it was already past 6 in the evening. Klein bought a lot of ingredients, such as sweet and sour pork ribs, pan-fried steak, braised fish, and a plate of scrambled eggs with tomatoes. This time, he did not deliberately hide the hometown delicacies he knew. He thought that if he really could not come back, at least Benson and Melissa could still have a thought. This is pure Intis food. Klein explained, I once traveled to the Republic of Intis and happened to know the current governor of the Republic of Intis. We have a good relationship. If you encounter any difficult problems in the future, you can go to the Republic of Intis for help. The Star Sea Kingdom, the rising new country, is a very good place to go. You can go there when you have time. It is also a good choice to settle down. The world is big. You can go out and see it. Klein said a lot by himself, while Benson and Melissa just lowered their heads in silence. The next day, when Benson and Melissa came out of the room, they no longer saw Klein. I'm scared, I'm really scared that Klein won't come back. Melissa could no longer control her sadness, and Benson comforted her with red eyes. I believe in miracles, and I believe that Klein can create miracles. He will definitely come back safely. We are his family, so we should choose to believe him, right? On the outskirts of the Hornacus Mountains, when Klein arrived, there was no trace of Zeratul. The Black Mountains seemed to be flashing with some kind of madness. The closer they got, the more dangerous they were. It is like a black chasm blocking everything and everyone who wants to pass through. Looking at this situation, the night goddess should have let Zeratul enter the Hornacus Mountains. Klein just stood there, looking quietly into the distance. After a while, a black portal was formed in front of him. This should be the passage opened for him by the goddess of the night. Go in. A voice sounded softly deep in his heart. Klein was silent for a while longer before stepping into the Hornacus Mountains. At this moment, on the main peak of the Hornacus Mountains, Zareth was isolated from the last distance. After entering the Hornacus Mountains, he did not appear directly in front of Antigonus as he wished, but was isolated at the end. This was a little further away. At first, he thought that the goddess of the night deliberately tricked him into coming in and wanted to join forces with the stars to deal with him. It was not until he saw Klein's figure appearing here and the distance was finally unsealed that he understood what the goddess of the night was thinking. This is to allow yourself to have the same starting point as Klein. Haha, I didn't expect you to come. In fact, you shouldn't have come. There was only a chill on Zeratul's face, not at all the amiable image he had in the foggy town. If you could foresee the future, would you have killed me at all costs when you were in the foggy town? Yes. Zeratul replied affirmatively, unfortunately, I just thought that you would have some bond with me in the future, and I didn't know that you would become my life and death enemy in the extraordinary path. Otherwise, even if I fight for that clone, I don't have to, I will also solve your trouble in advance. Now, you still have this opportunity. Oh, I'm not as stupid as you think. Zeratul drew a line of historical fog in the air, cutting off the distance between him and Klein, and then headed for the foggy town impatiently. He did not solve Klein's thoughts here. Instead, he was worried that Klein would deal with him here. Even though he is sequence 1 and Klein is sequence 2, the attitude of the night goddess and the stars still prevents him from taking risks like this. It would be better to abandon Klein and go directly to fight with Antigonus. Even if he fails, it is better than falling into the hands of Klein, who has the help of the goddess of the night and the stars. Klein was not in a hurry, and just watched Zeratul go away quietly. He felt that, no, not only him, but also the goddess of the night and the stars, none of them were optimistic that Zeratul could succeed, so he gave up this opportunity to Zeratul at the beginning. After Zeratul fails, he can take away the 2 sequence 1 mysterious waiter extraordinary characteristics from him, and then go to duel with Antigonus himself. To save herself the step of fighting Zareth first, the goddess of the night probably opened the seal of the misty town just now to give herself the choice. Today, right here, on the main peak of the Hornacus Mountains, a new sequence 0 will be born. Their gazes, including those outside the starry sky, are all watching here. Sequence 0 Fool. Klein whispered and began to stroll around this foggy town. The last time he came here, he hurried past to escape for his life and did not take a closer look at everything here. Now, after careful inspection, he discovered that everything here is a piece of history. History is an ancient context and a bridge connecting the past and the future. Now, he is walking on it, connecting the past and the future. His mind returned to complete peace at this moment. On the other side, Zeratul, who was traveling unimpeded, had arrived in front of the crazy Antigonus. Looking at the great being slumped on the throne in front of him, he stared at it for a while before slowly walking forward. Now he has obtained 2 copies of the Sequence 1 Extraordinary Characteristics of the Mysterious Attendant, while Antigonus has obtained 1 copy of the Extraordinary Characteristics of the Mysterious Attendant and the Uniqueness of the Fool. The balance of victory was slightly tilted towards Antigonus, but fortunately, he had gone crazy and lost his mind before the balance returned to the middle. Half success, half failure probability. My ending should be decided by myself. Zeratul resolutely merged with Antigonus and directly entered into the final battle, winning or losing in 1 move. Outside the starry sky, at the first crack in the barrier, the southern continent, the unknown sea area, the palace of stars. Pairs of familiar or unfamiliar eyes were all focused on this moment. Let Zeratul try it first, Klein, you are looking down on Zeratul. Hasta chuckled and watched this scene. He did not choose to interfere with Klein's choice because he knew that Zeratul would inevitably fail. Amen, what opportunity are you waiting for? Do you really place your hope on Zeratul? Hasta didn't think it would be that simple. Amen, Adam, and the true creator must be planning something secretly, or it may not just be them, but other beings participating in this alliance. 3 days passed quickly, and there was a murmur from the main peak of the Honekes Mountains that seemed to be waking up from a deep sleep, as well as a sigh that could not be resolved for a long time. Zeratul failed, and he lost to Antigonus, who had gone crazy. This is a destiny that is already determined and cannot be changed. Is the fate of failure really already doomed? Zarathu's consciousness was left floating in front of Klein, asking the most puzzling question in his heart. Klein said calmly, because the wheel of fate that controls fate said you will fail. Because the stars don't want you to succeed. Because I have Saphira Castle in my hand. Because you walked this road with 2 heavy shackles. Zarathu's last wisp of consciousness dissipated after getting the answer, and he died completely. 2 Sequence 1 Mysterious Servant Extraordinary Characteristics floated out. Before Klein had time to collect these 2 Mysterious Servant Extraordinary Characteristics, the crazy Antigonus wanted to forcibly seize them with his remaining few instincts and attack the Sequence 0 Fool again. The Goddess of Night, who had been watching this place, took action in time. Before Antigonus, she swept a Mysterious Servant Extraordinary Characteristics in front of Klein. Will also drew a long river of fate at the same time, blocking Antigonus's palm reaching for the Mysterious Servant Extraordinary Characteristics, and gently drew another Mysterious Servant in front of Klein. If Zeratul saw this scene, he would probably die with his eyes wide open. Klein sighed in his heart. He didn't want to use this incident to ridicule Zeratul, but he felt a kind of helplessness that was also forced to move forward. Zeratul had no chance to choose, and he also had no chance to choose. Because many secret beings had already made choices for him. Klein reached out and took back one of the extraordinary characteristics of the Mysterious Servant, and then merged it with the 9 kinds of spiritual auxiliary materials he had collected to form an extraordinary potion for the promotion to Sequence 1 Mysterious Servant. Everything was so easy. At this moment, Klein took the extraordinary potion of the Mysterious Servant and successfully promoted to Sequence 1 Mysterious Servant. Klein had already completed the role of this sequence. When he began to use Saphira Castle in the name of the Fool, he was playing the role. The extraordinary potion of the Mysterious Servant began to digest almost instantly. This was a shortcut left by the Lord of Mystery for the heir of Saphira Castle, which could be easily crossed. As for the promotion ceremony and the establishment of a secret doll town, when he received the bookmark with all the secrets of the fortune teller's path from Mr. Hasta, he had already started preparing the relevant ceremony in advance, in order to quickly get promoted. This was prepared in advance. Now it just happened to be used. Soon, Klein began to accommodate the second copy of the extraordinary characteristics of the secret servant. Under the gaze of secret eyes, he was walking step by step towards the predetermined fool's throne. After he completely accommodated the 2 copies of the secret servant's extraordinary characteristics, it only took him 3 days to recover, and he was ready to walk towards Antigonus to compete for the final fool. At this time, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Klein, stopping him from moving towards Antigonus. "I once told you that you'd better stop at sequence 2. Now, you've crossed the line." The voice was neither light nor faint, and contained an irresistible majesty. The one who came was God. "I think you should ask the secret beings watching over here about this question. They may give you an answer." Klein was not worried that God would suddenly attack. There were too many secret beings watching over here. P.S. I wish all readers a happy new year and a happy family. On the outskirts of the Hornacus Mountains, when Klein arrived, there was no trace of Zeratul. The Black Mountains seemed to be flashing with some kind of madness. The closer they got, the more dangerous they were. It is like a black chasm blocking everything and everyone who wants to pass through. Looking at this situation, the night goddess should have let Zeratul enter the Honakes Mountains. Klein just stood there, looking quietly into the distance. After a while, a black portal was formed in front of him. This should be the passage opened for him by the goddess of the night. "Go in." A voice sounded softly deep in his heart. Klein was silent for a while longer before stepping into the Honakes Mountains. At this moment, on the main peak of the Hornacus Mountains, Zareth was isolated from the last distance. After entering the Hornacus Mountains, he did not appear directly in front of Antigonus as he wished, but was isolated at the end. This was a little further away. At first, he thought that the goddess of the night deliberately tricked him into coming in and wanted to join forces with the stars to deal with him. It was not until he saw Klein's figure appearing here and the distance was finally unsealed that he understood what the goddess of the night was thinking. This is to allow yourself to have the same starting point as Klein. Haha, I didn't expect you to come. In fact, you shouldn't have come. There was only a chill on Zeratul's face, not at all the amiable image he had in the foggy town. If you could foresee the future, would you have killed me at all costs when you were in the foggy town? Yes. Zeratul replied affirmatively. Unfortunately, I just thought that you would have some bond with me in the future, and I didn't know that you would become my life and death enemy in the extraordinary path. Otherwise, even if I fight for that clone, I don't have to, I will also solve your trouble in advance. Now, you still have this opportunity. Oh, I'm not as stupid as you think. Zeratul drew a line of historical fog in the air, cutting off the distance between him and Klein, and then headed for the foggy town impatiently. He did not solve Klein's thoughts here. Instead, he was worried that Klein would deal with him here. Even though he is sequence 1 and Klein is sequence 2, the attitude of the night goddess and the stars still prevents him from taking risks like this. It would be better to abandon Klein and go directly to fight with Antigonus. Even if he fails, it is better than falling into the hands of Klein, who has the help of the goddess of the night and the stars. Klein was not in a hurry, and just watched Zeratul go away quietly. He felt that, no, not only him, but also the goddess of the night and the stars, none of them were optimistic that Zeratul could succeed, so he gave up this opportunity to Zeratul at the beginning. After Zeratul fails, he can take away the 2 sequence 1 mysterious waiter extraordinary characteristics from him, and then go to duel with Antigonus himself. To save herself the step of fighting Zareth first, the goddess of the night probably opened the seal of the misty town just now to give herself the choice. Today, right here, on the main peak of the Hornacus Mountains, a new sequence 0 will be born. Their gazes, including those outside the starry sky, are all watching here. Sequence 0 fool. Klein whispered and began to stroll around this foggy town. The last time he came here, he hurried past to escape for his life and did not take a closer look at everything here. Now, after careful inspection, he discovered that everything here is a piece of history. History is an ancient context and a bridge connecting the past and the future. Now, he is walking on it, connecting the past and the future. His mind returned to complete peace at this moment. On the other side, Zeratul, who was traveling unimpeded, had arrived in front of the crazy Antigonus. Looking at the great being slumped on the throne in front of him, he stared at it for a while before slowly walking forward. Now he has obtained 2 copies of the Sequence 1 Extraordinary Characteristics of the Mysterious Attendant, while Antigonus has obtained 1 copy of the Extraordinary Characteristics of the Mysterious Attendant and the Uniqueness of the Fool. The balance of victory was slightly tilted towards Antigonus, but fortunately, he had gone crazy and lost his mind before the balance returned to the middle. Half success, half failure probability. My ending should be decided by myself. Zeratul resolutely merged with Antigonus and directly entered into the final battle, winning or losing in 1 move. Outside the starry sky, at the first crack in the barrier, the southern continent, the unknown sea area, the Palace of Stars. Pairs of familiar or unfamiliar eyes were all focused on this moment. Let Zeratul try it first, Klein, you are looking down on Zeratul. Hastur chuckled and watched this scene. He did not choose to interfere with Klein's choice because he knew that Zeratul would inevitably fail. Amen, what opportunity are you waiting for? Do you really place your hope on Zeratul? Hastur didn't think it would be that simple. Amen, Adam, and the true creator must be planning something secretly, or it may not just be them, but other beings participating in this alliance. 3 days passed quickly, and there was a murmur from the main peak of the Honekes Mountains that seemed to be waking up from a deep sleep, as well as a sigh that could not be resolved for a long time. Zeratul failed, and he lost to Antigonus, who had gone crazy. This is a destiny that is already determined and cannot be changed. Is the fate of failure really already doomed? Zarathu's consciousness was left floating in front of Klein, asking the most puzzling question in his heart. Klein said calmly, because the wheel of fate that controls fate said you will fail. Because the stars don't want you to succeed. Because I have Saphira Castle in my hand. Because you walked this road with 2 heavy shackles. Zarathu's last wisp of consciousness dissipated after getting the answer, and he died completely. 2 Sequence 1 Mysterious Servant Extraordinary Characteristics floated out. Before Klein had time to collect these 2 Mysterious Servant Extraordinary Characteristics, the crazy Antigonus wanted to forcibly seize them with his remaining few instincts and attack the Sequence 0 Fool again. The Goddess of Night, who had been watching this place, took action in time. Before Antigonus, she swept a Mysterious Servant Extraordinary Characteristics in front of Klein. Will also drew a long river of fate at the same time, blocking Antigonus's palm reaching for the Mysterious Servant Extraordinary Characteristics, and gently drew another Mysterious Servant in front of Klein. If Zeratul saw this scene, he would probably die with his eyes wide open. Klein sighed in his heart. He didn't want to use this incident to ridicule Zeratul, but he felt a kind of helplessness that was also forced to move forward. Zeratul had no chance to choose, and he also had no chance to choose. Because many secret beings had already made choices for him. Klein reached out and took back one of the extraordinary characteristics of the Mysterious Servant, and then merged it with the 9 kinds of spiritual auxiliary materials he had collected to form an extraordinary potion for the promotion to Sequence 1 Mysterious Servant. Everything was so easy. At this moment, Klein took the extraordinary potion of the Mysterious Servant and successfully promoted to Sequence 1 Mysterious Servant. Klein had already completed the role of this sequence. When he began to use Saphira Castle in the name of the Fool, he was playing the role. The extraordinary potion of the Mysterious Servant began to digest almost instantly. This was a shortcut left by the Lord of Mystery for the heir of Saphira Castle, which could be easily crossed. As for the promotion ceremony and the establishment of a secret doll town, when he received the bookmark with all the secrets of the fortune teller's path from Mr. Hastur, he had already started preparing the relevant ceremony in advance, in order to quickly get promoted. This was prepared in advance. Now it just happened to be used. Soon, Klein began to accommodate the second copy of the extraordinary characteristics of the Secret Servant. Under the gaze of secret eyes, he was walking step by step towards the predetermined Fool's throne. After he completely accommodated the 2 copies of the Secret Servant's extraordinary characteristics, it only took him 3 days to recover, and he was ready to walk towards Antigonus to compete for the final Fool. At this time, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Klein, stopping him from moving towards Antigonus. I once told you that you'd better stop at Sequence 2. Now, you've crossed the line. The voice was neither light nor faint, and contained an irresistible majesty. The one who came was God. I think you should ask the secret beings watching over here about this question. They may give you an answer. Klein was not worried that God would suddenly attack. There were too many secret beings watching over here. P.S. I wish all readers a happy new year and a happy family. God raised his eyes slightly, and continued to look at the outer gods who were watching here outside the starry sky from the kingdom of God at the crack of the initial barrier, with a hint of sarcasm in his tone. With just a light sigh, most of the outer gods who were entrenched outside the initial barrier dispersed in an instant. Only the fallen mother goddess and 2 or 3 powerful outer gods were still guarding outside the initial barrier, and their eyes were also fixed on this place. God, even after such a long time, still made the outer gods dare not offend easily. Just a glance can make them leave quietly. It's still them. God's eyes were retracted from the starry sky, and then swept over the original witch, Adam and the real creator who were waiting for an opportunity to spy in the dark. It's still him. God's last gaze fell on the starry hall isolated by the nebula. You want to wake up the Lord of Mystery, but you don't have my permission. God still spoke in a calm tone. Even though it was just a figure of consciousness, it stood between Klein and Antigonus like a natural chasm that could never be crossed. With the coming of the doomsday, the Lord of Mysteries will awaken in my body sooner or later. It is better to let me have the final fight with the Lord of Mysteries while the Lord of Mysteries is still weak. Klein explained, even if my final outcome is still failure, during this period, you and all the secret existences watching here can prevent the Lord of Mysteries from awakening. Why should I take such a big risk for your sake? Because I also don't want the Lord of Mysteries to awaken in my body. Killing you or imprisoning you completely will make it easier for me to prevent the Lord of Mysteries from awakening. Maybe. Klein did not make any more excuses. He was very calm. After choosing to come to the Honachus Mountains, he had prepared himself mentally. Even the fear of death has been overcome, not to mention the tentative threat from God. He saw clearly that God did not want to stop the fight between him and Antigonus but had other ideas. At the same time, on an uninhabited island overseas, the descendants of Abraham's family secretly gathered here and began to build an altar to welcome their ancestors back, engraved with the correct symbols, magic signs and strange patterns. They placed the squirming meat mass, deformed star bird, and white crow with black eyes in the correct position in an orderly manner, and then lit the only candle on the altar. After making all the preparations, the descendants of the Abraham family chanted in giant language with great solemnity. The great gate of 10,000 doors. The guide of the endless starry sky. The key to all mysterious worlds. I pray for your response, and pray for you to come to this world. As soon as the chanting sounded, 3 bangs were heard in the altar. The 3 demigod monsters corresponding to the trickster, the secret wizard, and the parasite seemed to be pinched by invisible hands. After a slight struggle, they exploded directly and turned into a group of flesh and blood flashing with different colors. These flesh and blood seemed to have their own vitality. Under the influence and guidance of some indescribable power, they gathered in the air and outlined evil and filthy symbols. The densely packed symbols were arranged and combined in some incomprehensible order, slowly forming a door with flesh and blood still wriggling, a door more than 5 meters high. The wriggling door of flesh and blood stood on the altar. On the altar, there was a dim light inside, and no one knew where it led. The candle representing Mr. Men suddenly rose, illuminating the entire flesh and blood gate, allowing people to vaguely see a little bit of the situation inside the flesh and blood gate. One after another, star-like light balls lit up, and upon careful observation, there were insects with bent bodies inside. Soon, the light balls flew up and gathered into a huge arm, trying to reach out of the flesh and blood gate and come out of the gate. As the huge arm kept approaching the flesh and blood gate, the entire island began to shake violently, then shook all the nearby seas, then landed, and continued to spread until the whole world was disturbed by this shaking. The Honachus Mountains, Klein, who had not yet crossed God and had the final battle with Antigonus, also sensed this. He looked at God, "Is this why you are here today? Since you want to wake up the Lord of Mystery, how can you miss Mr. Men, who symbolizes the gate of 10,000 doors? God's vision is far-reaching. Even if he stood on the main peak of the Hornichus Mountains, he could see everything that happened on the deserted island at a glance. You want to help Aemon become a god. Aemon, is he worthy of my coming forward for this? God said in a meaningful tone, I am here for you. Klein fully understood what God meant by this sentence. He wanted all the fighters of the three extraordinary paths of the Lord of Mysteries to appear, so he delayed himself here so that Mr. Men could be released by the fallen Mother Goddess. To be precise, he came to make a deal with the stars, the goddess of night and other secret beings who were watching here. As long as they let Mr. Men escape and Aemon become a god, he would let himself and Antigonus have the final fight. Amon's becoming a god was just a push for him to achieve the situation he wanted, not even a push. Are you sure you can suppress the awakening of the Lord of Mysteries? Klein asked curiously. God did not answer, but just asked him to wait. The goddess of night, Will and other hidden beings did not take action at this time. They all understood that Adam and the true creator were also paying attention to this place. Once God and the ancient sun god join forces, even if it is only for a short moment, it will be enough to rewrite the situation. In the Hall of Stars, Hastur did not change his mind because of the appearance of God. As long as Aemon wanted to become a god, he would stop him. God can block the Hornichus Mountains, so he can also act against Mr. Men and Aemon. If Aemon wants to become a god, he must first let Mr. Men return and let Mr. Men complete the last step of the promotion sequence 0. In the original work, the reason why Aemon can easily replace Mr. Men and become a god is because Mr. Men has a lofty moral code. He who does not want to become a scourge, knows that Aemon is calculating him, but still chooses to complete it. For such a Mr. Men, Hastur has always respected him and tried to save him from the influence of the fallen Mother Goddess many times. Now, the best opportunity has come. Mr. Men, Aemon, and Klein each represent an extraordinary path to becoming the Lord of Mysteries. Hastur quietly watched the movements on the overseas island. When the doors of the entire world opened one by one, God, who knew the intentions of the stars, did not stop Klein and allowed Klein to have the final fight with Antigonus. Mr. Men, Aemon, Klein, it's getting more and more interesting. God's eyes were deep and unfathomable, and he glanced at Adam and the real creator hidden in the dark. Fortunately, the body he was waiting for, except for the God of knowledge and wisdom, had reached perfection in other aspects, and no more duels like raising poison were needed. On the overseas island, as the momentum of Mr. Men's imminent return from breaking the seal grew louder and louder, the surrounding sea continued to surge, resisting the prying of living beings. As for the descendants of the Abraham family who held sacrifices and wanted to summon Mr. Men to return, they had all fallen in front of the altar without exception, and no one was alive. When Mr. Men's body was about to cross the flesh and blood gate to escape, a familiar voice sounded in his ears. You want to bring the disaster back to reality. Mr. Men's original action of climbing out of the flesh and blood gate was somewhat slow. Give up, I have a way to deal with it, I will let you sleep and let you get the peace you want. The familiar voice sounded again. Mr. Men's figure, which collapsed from the light ball, stopped there, as if he was caught in a fierce inner struggle. The layers of doors in his body were just a little bit away from being completely overlapped. The illusory crashing sound, like the tide, is constantly hitting the still wide-open flesh and blood gate. Mr. Men, whose face cannot be seen clearly, seems to be caught in a dilemma. If he takes one step forward, he can return to the real world and be promoted to Sequence 0. But similarly, the power of the fallen Mother Goddess is only one step away from reaching the real world. You should understand what will happen once you leave this door. Do you really want to watch such a tragedy unfold? The voice appeared again, and he always spoke in a leisurely tone, allowing Mr. Men to lower his defenses. Leave everything to me. I will shoulder your destiny for you. You just need to sleep well and fall asleep peacefully in the quiet night. When Mr. Men was about to agree to the deal, a burst of starlight fell from the vast starry sky. The hazy and dreamy starlight was like the most dazzling beam of light, connecting the isolated island overseas with the brilliant starry sky. The whole starry sky became more dazzling because of the appearance of this starlight. When the light of the stars was reflected into the depths of the sea, a little bit of starlight rose from the depths of the surrounding sea. At this moment, this place is no longer a sea, but a sea of stars belonging to the stars. Stars. A whisper, representing the unwillingness of the speaker. Aemon just watched the light of the stars fall on Mr. Men, and Adam and the real creator did not intervene. God had made a move before, and now the stars have made a move. This is a fair exchange. In the brilliant sea of stars, the flesh and blood that constitute the flesh and blood gate no longer wriggled, but seemed to be afraid of the brilliance of the starlight, and dared not make any unnecessary movements. Inside the flesh and blood gate, Mr. Men, who was baptized by the light of the stars and was in a trance, gradually regained his consciousness. He began to remember his identity, and began to remember the past that had been constantly wasted in these long years, and no longer just remembered the simple thought that he could not return and could not save me. The process of regaining memory is very long and very short. Stars, do you want to help me? Mr. Men, who had not spoken for a long time, said this in a hoarse and suppressed voice. The starry sky slowly condensed into the shape of the Star Hall, and a voice came from the Star Hall. I really want to help you. Just to stop Aemon. Helping you is the main thing, stopping Aemon is just a byproduct. Mr. Men chuckled, as if mocking Aemon. Thank you for your kindness, but even you can only keep me awake for a short time, and I still can't completely get rid of the pollution of the fallen mother goddess. Before Hasta spoke, Mr. Men added, I am more polluted than Russell. I am now much stronger than when I helped Russell before. Hasta silently replied in his heart that he is now a sequence 1-star singer, and can use the Star Hall to exert far more power than when purifying Russell. Even if the influence of the fallen mother goddess on Mr. Men cannot be completely eradicated, Mr. Men can suppress the consciousness of the fallen mother goddess for a long time like Russell and restore a certain degree of freedom. Hasta was still confident about this. You should try to believe in miracles. I'm past the age of believing in miracles. Mr. Men said here, paused and said, adventure is an unbearable burden for this world. It is too fragile and cannot withstand any temptation. Being able to have a moment of clarity is already a luxury that is hard to find for me. Are you going to give up? Hasta's tone was a little surprised. I won't let the fallen mother goddess have the opportunity to use my body to harm the world, even if the possibility is very low. Do you want to fulfill Aemon? It's all right. Mr. Men turned his gaze to the distant Hornichus Mountains. He saw clearly Klein who was fighting with Antigonus. If I can choose, I would prefer the same choice as you. Mr. Men expressed his optimism about Klein. Looking at Klein, he seemed to see himself. If it was Klein who encountered the same situation as himself, he should have made the same choice as himself. Even now that he is about to escape, his choice will still be the same as his. But Aemon, he knows Amon's character. He is not a being who is willing to use his life to protect other lives. At least now, Aemon cannot do this. Mr. Men then looked at Adam and the real creator hidden in the dark, and said disappointedly, the lesson of a failure still cannot make you change, what a pity. Then he looked at the kingdom of the goddess of night, was silent for a while, and whispered to the starry sky above his head, he has never been absent in protecting this world. Then, his eyes passed over the kingdoms of the gods of knowledge and wisdom and the gods of steam and machinery, and fell on the obviously dilapidated kingdom of the mother goddess of the earth, and sighed heavily. Finally, his eyes fell on Will, who appeared in the image of the Wheel of Fortune, and said with a smile, what a lucky man who is favored by fate, may your good luck always be there. Mr. Men's eyes selectively skipped God. Such an existence is not something he can comment on casually. Thank you to the stars for your help, allowing me to see the world soberly again. Mr. Men said in a calm tone, as for the descendants of my family, I believe that there are still some good people among them who stick to the original intention of the family. If possible. Before Mr. Men finished speaking, the consciousness of the fallen mother goddess in his body wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to seize Mr. Men's body and descend into the real world. Retreat. Hasta shouted coldly, causing the consciousness of the fallen mother goddess to disperse again. At the same time, starlight turned into long whips and whipped Mr. Men. It seemed that he was targeting Mr. Men, but in fact he was helping Mr. Men disperse the consciousness of the fallen mother goddess that was gradually gathering in his body. Outside the initial barrier, the fallen mother goddess let out an angry and helpless roar. God just glanced at him calmly, "Oh, you will never be able to enter the initial barrier." The simple taunt made the fallen mother goddess extremely angry, and she began to crazily attack the cracks in the initial barrier. "Unless you possess the power of the first creator, you will never be able to cross this original barrier." God seemed to be interested, and smiled and mocked. "Sometimes it's boring to think about it. Obviously there are 3 pillars in this universe, but it's always just me and the secret that are fighting." God. The fallen mother goddess angrily hit the initial barrier several times. After returning with no success, she forcibly invaded the Crimson Moon. Knowing that the fallen mother goddess was coming in a rage, the Desire Mother Tree had no intention of fighting with her and chose to let the fallen mother goddess take a step forward. The mother goddess of Earth could not stop the invasion of the fallen mother goddess. The crimson moon in the sky instantly became as bright as blood, and the face of the fallen mother goddess seemed to appear within it. "Is this all you have left?" God calmly mocked, and then attracted the power of the Chaos Sea to shake the power of the fallen mother goddess out of the crimson moon, making it difficult for her to use the crimson moon to affect things within the initial barrier. "Oh, you dare to show your teeth and claws at me despite the initial barrier. Do you really think you are the original creator?" After God finished speaking, he ignored the extremely angry fallen mother goddess. His eyes looked at Mr. Men again with scrutiny. "Fallen mother goddess, your hand is stretched too long." God thought about it and finally did not choose to join the stars in helping Mr. Men purify the pollution in his body. This aspect is not his expertise, nor is it the authority of the Lord of Mysteries. If there really is the authority to completely purify the corruption of the fallen mother goddess, then it can only come from the stars. But today's stars seem to have not completely returned to the starry sky, so that his authority cannot completely purify the pollution of the fallen mother goddess. "Have you made your choice?" Asta gave Mr. Men another chance to choose. "I should not return, and the world no longer needs a person like Mr. Men. You are enough." Mr. Men made his final choice. Mr. Men was unwilling to return with contamination. This was his own choice. Perhaps he had seen his future destiny on the road to the awakening of the Lord of Mysteries. In the Hall of Stars, Hasta chose to respect Mr. Men's decision. Since he did not want to live like Russell, he could only fulfill Mr. Men's righteousness. But he still felt sorry for it in his heart. After all, he had been thinking about how to rescue Mr. Men a long time ago and had made many attempts for this. When the light of the stars faded, the sea and the starry sky returned to their original tranquility. Seeing this scene, Aemon once again came to the uninhabited desert island and imprisoned Mr. Men in front of the Flesh and Blood Gate. "The promise I just said is still valid. What a pity." Mr. Men just whispered, and then fulfilled Aemon, allowing Aemon to replace his own godhood ceremony and ascend to sequence 0 error. In the Flesh and Blood Gate, Mr. Men raised his head and put on a single lens made of crystal on his right eye. A ray of light burst out from this single lens, illuminating the whole world. At this moment, all the errors of the seal were corrected, and all seemingly normal behaviors went wrong. As the light gradually faded, Mr. Men had turned into Aemon, who was wearing a pointed hat and a classical black robe. In Amon's hand, he still held a key made of pure starlight and slightly quaint. Behind him at this moment, the crimson tide angrily washed the Flesh and Blood Gate, trying to squeeze into this world through this passage. At this moment, the blood-colored moonlight was so bright that it blocked all other lights outside. Facing the erosion from the fallen mother goddess, Amon's mouth curled up slightly, glanced at the starry sky above his head, and whispered, "Stars, you should return the blasphemous slate." In the Hall of Stars, Hasta just calmly watched Aemon, whose self-confidence was obviously rising, and had no intention of handing over the blasphemous slate. He took this thing from God. Although it didn't have much use for him, he might be able to use this first blasphemous slate to influence the Chaos Sea in the future. Give it to Aemon to plug the hole. He wasn't so generous. Aemon probably knew that this would be the outcome. He stretched out his right hand and took out a temple built of bones. The bone church from Adam, although not as good as the blasphemous stone slab born from the Chaos Sea, was not difficult to block the Flesh and Blood Gate in a short time and resist the influence of the fallen mother goddess. As for how long such a seal can last and when it will fail in the future, it is no longer his business. There are other secret existences to solve this problem. As the bone church was filled, the flesh and blood gate collapsed rapidly and soon disappeared, leaving only an angry and terrifying roar that still echoed in the surrounding sea. In the sky, the blood-red light of the crimson moon gradually dissipated. Indistinctly, there seemed to be a crimson figure in the crimson moon that was jumping like thunder, setting off waves of storms that were difficult to cross the boundary. Wearing a pointed hat and a classic black robe, Aemon adjusted the monocle on his right eye, waved to all the secret existences and prying eyes watching here tonight, then bowed slightly with a smile on his lips, and saluted to the surroundings. Aemon looked up and glanced at the starry sky that reappeared above his head, and there was also a smile in his eyes. He was promoted to Sequence 0 after all, and right under the eyes of the stars. This undoubtedly made his promotion ceremony more fulfilling. The stars, even if they are watching everything, cannot affect or change everything. Aemon retracted his gaze and was about to leave here with a smile. A voice sounded in his mind like thunder. What a gorgeous curtain call, really good, Aemon, you are very polite. The frivolous tone was full of ridicule and slight disdain. This was the voice of the stars. Amon's face was slightly stiff with a smile on his face. He could clearly tell that this voice did not come from the starry sky above his head, but really emerged from his mind. The stars are in his body. Or it should be said that the power of the stars remained in Mr. Men's body, and when he replaced everything of Mr. Men, he also inherited the power of the stars. Mr. Men didn't stop you from doing this. Amon's face has returned to its usual calmness. He has no reason to stop me, just as I also didn't let Mr. Men forcibly get rid of the pollution of the fallen mother goddess but respected his choice. That's right. Aemon nodded, with a slight smile on his lips. Sequence 0 of the extraordinary path of the thief is called an error, and correcting errors is a very basic authority. Although you left some secret doors in my body, I can correct these errors at any time and get everything back on track. Amon's tone was very calm, as if he was not worried at all about the influence of the power of the stars left in Mr. Men's body on himself. That makes sense. The power of error is really good. Hastur's voice sounded from the depths of Amon's mind again. Unfortunately, what you represent is only error, not right. Amon's eyes were slightly cold. He tried to use the power of error to correct the error of the stars leaving a secret door in Mr. Men's body, but no matter how he corrected it, the power of the stars always remained in his body and was difficult to get rid of. It seems that what I did was right, so you can't treat it as an error correction. Hastur's tone was a little sarcastic. When he knew that Mr. Men had decided to help Aemon become a god, he used the remaining power of the stars that had been used to help Mr. Men purify the consciousness of the fallen mother goddess in his body to open a small secret door in Mr. Men's body, in order to plot against Aemon. Mr. Men knew about this, but he did not choose to stop it. Instead, he cooperated with Hastur to leave a secret door in his body, so that Hastur could successfully plot against Aemon. This was also Mr. Men's return to Hastur for keeping him awake for a short time. The stars that live in the Hall of Stars and overlook this land, actually plotted against me so deliberately. They really think highly of me. Aemon stopped correcting his wrong behavior and straightened the single crystal glasses on his right eye. I just feel sorry for Mr. Men. Hastur left this sentence and disappeared. Aemon was silent for a moment, and tried to find the secret door left by the stars in his body, but found nothing. I don't know if the stars have taken back the secret door, or if the means are too deep for him to see through. Stars. Aemon looked up at the starry sky again, his eyes no longer frivolous and provocative, but solemn and fearful. It's time to go to the Honachus Mountains. Who will be the future Lord of Mysteries? Aemon just gently opened a translucent light door in front of him, passed through the door, and appeared in the misty town the next second. In the hall where Antigonus lived, Klein was still fighting with Antigonus. If Klein succeeded, he would be a true fool. If he failed, he would have the opportunity to become the Lord of Mysteries without doing anything. Aemon stared at it closely. For him, now was the best opportunity to make a move, but unfortunately, there were too many eyes watching here. He could only choose to wait. About 3 days later, the aura on Amon's body became weaker and weaker. He gradually adapted to the state of being promoted to Sequence 0 error, and also began to master the various powers and abilities of Mr. Men's extraordinary path. Now, He is already a true god of the dual path. His opponent, Klein, had just won the battle for consciousness. He was in a bad state and could not be promoted to sequence 0 full for a while. With such a fate arranged all the way, do you still want to continue? Give up, end it, let me continue on your behalf. You can go back to Backland, back to your family, and continue to enjoy the peaceful and stable life before. That is the future you are pursuing, not taking risks here just to awaken the Lord of Mysteries in your body. Amon's voice flowed like a silent spring, and began to shake Klein's shaky persistence. A peaceful and stable life. Such a beautiful future does not need Amon to describe it to him. He has already thought about it many times and fantasized about it countless times. But when he chose to set foot in the Honachus Mountains, he had already abandoned all these fantasies. He knew that if he hesitated, he would never have the opportunity to start over again, and there would be no possible future. When Amon's seductive voice sounded, Klein was not only not confused, but became more sober. I should thank you for the beautiful future you described for me. It's really good, even though you have ulterior motives. Klein gradually got rid of the chaotic mental state and faced Amon with a clear mind. You shouldn't be so clear-headed. Amon put away the playful smile on his lips and said, isn't it good to end here? Why do you have to move forward? When you are placed with high hopes, will you choose to retreat, or choose to carry hope and move forward with difficulty? Klein did not wait for Amon's answer, and said to himself, with your personality, you will definitely sneer and ridicule others' expectations, and even say that only incompetent people will place their so-called hopes on others. You don't care about other people's expectations, you will only move forward at your own pace. Speaking of which, I envy you for this. Living for yourself sounds much freer than living with the hopes of others. Amon just listened quietly to Klein's remarks, without any idea of refutation or explanation. Until Klein finished speaking, he sighed, your recovery ability is really good. Now you are so eloquent. Klein smiled and said nothing more. He looked around and the starry sky above his head, then closed his eyes and continued to recover his mental state. Although he had won the battle with Antigonus, he was not yet capable of attacking the sequence 0 full. His mental state was depleted, and he could not complete the requirements of the promotion ceremony for a while. Fortunately, the stars and will were watching him. No matter how unwilling Amon was, he did not dare to make a move at will. Instead, he had to wait until he was promoted to sequence 0 full before making the final fight to become the Lord of Mysteries. Seeing Klein resting peacefully, Amon's eyes deepened, but he did not choose to make a move at this time. God, Adam, the true creator and other hidden beings also remained silent. Outside the initial barrier, the eyes of the fallen mother god were fixed on the direction of the Honachus Mountains. Previously, through Mr. Men opening the sealed channel, he had briefly learned about what was happening in the real world. The group of hidden beings within the initial barrier wanted to awaken the Lord of Mysteries. God, the stars, the ancient sun god, the goddess of night and others were actively promoting this matter. Once the Lord of Mysteries returns intact, together with God and the stars, they will have even less hope of taking the source within the initial barrier. At this point, the Mother Tree of Desire, the Superstar Overlord, the Decayed King, etc. are also afraid. The stars are constantly recovering their own state, and they are no longer as important to the stars as they were at the beginning. When the doomsday comes in the future, when fighting for the source, will the stars really stand in the same camp with them? What kind of changes will the awakening of the Lord of Mysteries cause? Just confront the stars directly. We need the promise from the stars, so that we can have an advantage over other outer gods in the past. This matter should be discussed by that bastard, the son of chaos. Soon, the lamp god went to the Hall of Stars to talk to Hasta about this matter and convened a meeting of the stars. When the Mother Tree of Desire, the Superstar Overlord, the Decayed King, sat down one after another, the lamp god coughed and said, "Stars, why do you want to wake up the Lord of Mysteries with God and the others? Then when do you think the Lord of Mysteries should wake up?" Hasta's eyes swept over the lamp god and the Mother Tree of Desire and other outer gods. The lamp god curled his lips and said, "Oh, of course it's best if you can never wake up." The Mother Tree of Desire and the others looked at each other and didn't say anything. This time they agreed with what the lamp god said. The Lord of Mysteries, that bastard, deliberately sealed so many source substances in the Western continent. If you want to get the source substances, you must wake him up. Such behavior is simply shameless. Don't you think it would be interesting to change the Lord of Mysteries? The eyes of the lamp god, the mother tree of desire, the superstar overlord and other outer gods were all stern at the same time, revealing a thoughtful expression. Hastur continued, since the awakening of the Lord of Mysteries is inevitable, then let him fall into division or be replaced. Such an ending is also very good. Good idea. The lamp god suddenly became interested, but soon muttered, with the wisdom of the Lord of Mysteries, can he really be easily replaced? Does that Klein really have a chance to defeat the Lord of Mysteries? The mother tree of desire and the lamp god each asked a question. Hastur just smiled and did not answer again. He had said everything he should say. As for whether the mother tree of desire believed it, he did not care. Things have developed to this point, so the birth of the Lord of Mysteries is unstoppable. I believe in the judgment of the stars. The lamp god did not dwell on this issue. The mother tree of desire and other outer gods of the old days can only recognize the choice of the stars, and they, too, cannot change anything. Across the initial barrier, being able to ask the stars is the most they can do. More than a month later, on the main peak of the Hornichus Mountains, Klein began to prepare for the promotion to Sequence 0 Fool. Eamon, who had never left here, watched all this expressionlessly. During this period of time, he had too many opportunities to take action, but in the end he chose to give up. If I were you, I would definitely take a risk once. So you are destined not to be me. Do you think I will fail in the promotion? You've said too much. You are not that confident in yourself. This is not a problem you need to worry about. After a brief exchange, Klein sighed, but did not immediately start trying to promote to Sequence 0, even though he already had all the necessary conditions. Main materials. Full uniqueness, the remaining 2 Sequence 1 mysterious servant extraordinary characteristics. It was within his reach at this moment. The promotion ceremony was full-time, history or fate once. He was ready to achieve the fooling of fate through deception, just like Antigonus did at the beginning. I still have some things to do. If you don't mind, you can continue to wait here. After Klein finished speaking to Eamon, he put away the fool's uniqueness and the other 2 mysterious servant Beander traits and left. His first stop was to go to the St. Samuel Church in Backland. He felt that he should have a frank talk with the goddess of night. At first, he thought that the 3 travelers in the cocoon were himself, Russell, and the stars. But after being promoted to Sequence 1 mysterious servant, his connection with Saphira Castle became closer, and he was able to use the power of Saphira Castle to explore the truth of the original Light Gate. The stars were not born from Saphira Castle, and he was not a traveler from Earth. Russell had also suspected this, but there was no evidence. Now everything is clear. The goddess of night is the earliest traveler on Saphira Castle. She had helped Russell in secret, and she had also helped herself in secret. Archbishop Anthony was not surprised by Klein's arrival. He had received an oracle from the goddess in advance. After leaving the prayer hall to Klein, he dismissed the others and left. The night fell here silently. In the dark night world, the stars lit up, and then the peaceful night formed the black dress of the goddess of night, and the stars became the embellishment on the dress of the goddess of night. The goddess of night, who is more noble than the starry sky and longer than eternity, has come here at this moment. Praise the goddess. Klein bowed slightly and smiled. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.